recording, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh, it's so cool to see so many people on here. We've got more coming in, so we are right on time. Thank you guys for joining us at our OML virtual event. My name is Jewel. I am on the OML leadership team. I am a co-founder of the Art Maker Life movement. I'll introduce my other team members as you guys are coming into the room, but I've got my whips here. We've got our guest speakers here, and we're just chilling and hanging out. So we want to make sure that you guys know that this space is going to be a relaxing next couple of hours, and we just want you guys to hang out with us. We have some really good conversation topics planned. I'm so excited about our keynote speakers. So our panel conversations we'll have about that, our knit and crochet along, which will be through breakout rooms. So I'm really excited about all that, and I hope you guys are too. Hello, Shelli, I see you in the bottom corner there. But I'll go ahead and introduce myself and just sort of give you guys, while this event is going to be rather informal and obviously a little bit different from how our typical events look, we still do have a nice time planned over the next few hours. So again, my name is Jewel. I am a one-woman shop runner and owner of North Knits, but I'm also, again, with the Art Maker Life team. We started Art Maker Life 5 years ago now in 2016. So it was just an idea for us to sort of do this, to just meet up and talk about our love for knitting and crochet, for yarn dyeing. We moved over into macrame lovers, hanging out with OML in our community, and to just share our love for craft. So it's a movement for makers by makers. So I certainly hope that all of you guys have heard of OML before or had an opportunity to attend an OML event. We will hopefully be back in person next year, but our first event was in Manhattan in New York City. The wonderful Alexi was there.
Yes, I was.
So she really believed in the OML vision from the beginning, and we're forever grateful to her for that. But yeah, we had a great little meetup in downtown Manhattan. It was about 50 of us at the time, and we asked everybody, like, what would you want to see from OML next year? And they said, more people, more of us. We want to grow. We want to see more people being represented and sharing what we all love to do. So the next year we did just that. We jumped probably about 50 to 75% of people at our OML Toronto event. So we crossed borders and added more people. We had great keynote speakers, supported Canadian local there in Toronto, and had an equally great event in July of 2017. And then in 2018, we brought it to my hometown, where we always do let our the community, attendees, people who follow us on Art Maker Life, primarily on Instagram, vote where they want to meet up each year. So from the very first event to the one that will be next year, we've always let our attendees vote, and just people who follow us on Instagram vote where they want it. So Chicago was our 2018 event. It was crazy, insane fun. Had so many wonderful makers there. Toni, you might have been there. Maybe Toni, I know you were in Toronto.
Yes,
okay.
Was amazing.
Christy was there. Jake was there. It was a really, really incredible event. Literally rained 15 minutes before we started our event, but it ended up being a beautiful day and a beautiful time. And then our event in 2019, we took it back to Canada, and we had it in the beautiful Calgary. So it was a wonderful event. We had Chantal of Knititude there, Stephanie of All About Ami. I don't know if any of those lovely ladies are here in the room. Nathan, we've got a few more dozen waiting, so if you want to have them pop in. But yeah, we had some wonderful makers in our Calgary event. And thank you. Also got to explore wonderful, just Calgary is probably one of the most beautiful places I personally have ever seen. So being able to explore that landscape there. around the event was super cool. Obviously, with the global pandemic and things that have been happening since 2020, we decided to pause our event, which was originally slated for Portland, Oregon. So it'll be our first time going that far west. And everybody was super excited about it. I mean, Portland pretty much won by a landslide. I think Colorado was maybe a close second. But yeah, everybody was super excited to have it in Portland for 2020. Of course, we paused it, just in lieu of everything that has been happening in the world. But 2021, we're here and we're back, and we want to stay transparent and stay connected. That's what you guys have said that you wanted to see from OML, to just be able to still hang out and talk about what's going on. And for this event, we really want to talk about what we've learned as makers, as people, as business owners, particularly in the last year. COVID is something that it's very real. It has affected all of us in many different ways. And we want to be able to have this be a space where it's safe to talk about that. And hopefully we can begin to sort of travel away from global pandemic and lockdown and all of those things with a lesson learned and something that will help us grow and be better people in a better world that do these amazing things with yarn. So yeah, with that being said, that's all about me and all about OML. Nathan, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Welcome in. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are, maybe even good night. Hope everyone is having a great day. We're pretty excited. And I just want to start off by saying that it's really, really good to see people's faces. That's something we miss. In person is definitely our thing. As much as we love to be, online and things like that, you cannot beat an in-person event because it's just something that you have to experience. It's something tangible and just being around like-minded people. So we really appreciate this. And this is just pretty much a start of the future for OML. We want to be more present in, so many different ways because we know and understand that OML has so many facets. So we couldn't do this without y'all. So it's definitely community over competition. It's community, and we just want to continue to build each other up. So yeah, thank you. And
awesome. And I think Nathan is also being a little bashful. Nathan is one of our original co-founders who
they know who I am.
okay, put some respect on my name. Got it, Nathan. But he also runs Loop and Thread. So I was so excited when Nathan believed in this vision to start OML with me, because I wanted to make sure that we, in so many facets, had diversity and representation. And oftentimes knitting can be thought of something that your grandma does, and that's pretty much it. But we definitely wanted to showcase and represent that men knit too, and that they can run businesses and offer great expertise, business insight, and inspiration to our community as well. And so Nathan has been a part of that vision from the very beginning. So yes, Nathan, we'll definitely put some respect on your name. So we'll pop it over to the lovely Jake of Is That Kin Yarn. Jake joined the OML team in 2019, which it has seemed to have flown by. But Jake, you have the floor.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited about the event today. I'm coming at you from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, sort of echoing what Nathan and Jules said. My first event with Our Maker Life was in Chicago. That's where I met the team. And then I attended the Calgary event. And since the Calgary event, have been working with the team sort of in a different role. But I'm so excited that we finally got to do this with, at least, like Nathan said, at least seeing faces instead of, last year when we had to unfortunately cancel the event. Yeah, I encourage everybody, to ask questions, make friends during our breakout rooms later, really get to know the community. We have a great turnout today, and I know that the guest speakers have a lot planned. So thank you all for being here. And if you have any questions for, me specifically later on, you can always reach out.
Awesome. And thanks, Jake. As a part of our event today, we will have a panel discussion. So Jake has a plethora of business insight and just inspiration that he can offer both. And it was so immediate and just like a no-brainer of why I wanted Jake to be a part of the OML team. Jake has a vision and just a mind that to me works like someone that I've never seen in this community, and being a part of the community for oh my gosh, probably almost 10 years now. It was just an honor and a no-brainer to be able to have Jake come a part of the OML team and to help us grow and advance our vision and direction while running his yarn dyeing shop, Is That Kin Yarn. So if you guys have questions around yarn dyeing, how do you run a business? How did you start it? How do you take those amazing photos? How do you connect with your community? Jake is going to be the person to ask that. And we'll have some specific questions that we'll talk about on our panel, but we'll also freestyle it a little bit. So you guys feel free to ask Jake those questions. And last but certainly not least is my amazing Christy of Christy Bowden Designs. Christy came onto the team at the same time as Jake, has been an OML attendee road warrior. Like, you've been with us, I want to say, for every event, Christy, if I'm not mistaken, but you have the floor, my dear.
Hi guys, welcome. Good morning. It's early for me because I live in the Pacific Northwest. So I am coming to you from Victoria, BC. And you may or may not hear some children banging and laughing in the background. I think my son is coming to join now, of course. So I'm a part of Christy Bowden Designs. I have missed one event. So I was never at the New York event, but I have been at every OML event. So being able to be a part of the team, I remember that being a complete pipe dream when I went to Chicago and then joined the team in 2019, and am so happy that we are able to have an event. I'm certainly looking forward to going to Portland next year and avoiding hugs from everyone because I hate hugs, but I'll be there and run from you. But at least here I don't have to hug anyone. I just get to like smile from here. So I'm stoked that we're all here. This is going to be super awesome. So welcome.
Yeah, Christy's been pretty invaluable on the team, helping us a lot. I feel like keeping me on track with just scheduling things, because OML, we like to, of course, do our events. We really polled you guys actually not too long ago, and you guys want to see more virtual events from us. So Christy and I are working on making sure that we can do things like that, even as the world opens back up. But Christy also brings a wealth of knowledge about yarn, because I think you're still at the yarn shop, right, Christy?
That I am.
So
yeah, Beehive Workshop.
Christy works at a yarn shop. She has for a while, and brings a plethora of information just about yarn fibers and who are great brands to work with and good yarns to use. And I think that's something that we can all really benefit from, whether you're choosing to dye your yarn, knit with it, crochet with it, make macrame with it. Like, I noticed that it was a game changer for me and my business, both from OML and on the North Knit side, once I took the time to understand fiber, because you really start to understand that it's more than just pretty yarn, but this is really a craft that you can become quite technical and scientific, and it can just be a game changer and an elevation for your business because of what you know. So I think you might have had somebody hop in the room who may just want to mute themselves. I just want to remember to place your. And I don't know if you can find them. I can't see who it is. Oh, got him. I want to make sure you guys can still hear me as well. Okay, so yeah, that's the OML team. I don't know if any of our other co-founders are here in the room, but if they are, I'm saying hey to you, I'm shouting you out. You guys may have heard of them before. Kelly of Knitbricks was also instrumental and amazing in helping to launch the Our Maker Life brand and vision. Allison of La Reserve Design, who before we started OML, she was not a married mom of 2 kids, but now she is, which blows my mind every time. So I'm sure Al is probably running after little ones and may not be on the call today, but if she is, hello. And also the lovely Kathleen of Country Pine Designs, who also became a mom during Our Maker Life, and was an original or is an original OML co-founder and helped to launch the brand, and also really show how, you can be a country girl down in Texas where it's hot every single day and still use yarn and make it beautiful and make it great. She's like I'll take a break being a mom because I've literally made so many hats. I can't. So I also just wanted to show recognition and shout out to our original co-founders there, because they definitely helped bring the OML vision to life and have those events, as well as launch our books, podcasts, blogs, and stuff like that, which OML has also been able to tap into. So yeah, we'll get into all that and talk about that throughout the day. A little bit of a rundown. We're at about 15 minutes. So Shelli, we may be going into your opportunity and time to have the floor and talk a little bit early. But as far as the day's rundown, just so that you guys know, again, this is going to be informal, chill, relax. You know, our in-person events are a little bit more strategic as far as being sticklers for time. But, you know, this being virtual, we feel like we can just let our shoulders down a little bit and relax and take a deep breath. But we will have our first guest speaker coming on to chat with us first, and that is going to be Shelli of Shelli.can. I will let her have the floor and introduce herself, but I'll give you one word for Shelli. Straight up girl boss. I think that's 4 words, but it's still who she is. I love Shelli because I think Shelli has shown how you can use knitting and crochet and the love for that in a parallel brand. I'll let her talk about what her brand and her business is, but once she goes into that, you guys feel free to ask questions around that, because a lot of times, you know, let's be real about it. We can experience burnout with our yarn. We can experience burnout with trying to blog about it, podcast about it, all that stuff. And you also may just be interested in trying some different things that are in a parallel business position to knit and crochet and yarn. So Shelli will be able to talk about all of that. And she's also, while discussing her life and business, she's also going to hone in on what she's learned in the last year since the pandemic, what she's learned as a business person in the maker community and through social media and personally as well. After she speaks, we'll open the floor for a few of us to, or a few of you guys to be able to ask her questions. We do want to be cognizant to time for all of the guest speakers, so we'll only have just a few of you guys speak, I think just about 3. So feel free to, you guys should all be able to see in the bottom corner of your screen, whether you're on desktop or mobile, where you can have a little reaction, to raise your hand. And if you do want to ask Shelli a question after she speaks, we'll unmute you. Christy will be able to call out your name. So if you do want to make sure that your name or how you prefer to be called is in the left-hand corner of your actual name window, we can call on you and Shelli can ask a couple of questions. If you do not have a chance to ask your question or get an answer, we'll have time later in the day where Shelli can hop in and talk to you about something specifically. After Shelli speaks, we'll have our first giveaway, because we do have some giveaway prizes, and OML is always known for our swag at our events. And we wanted to, we worked hard, you guys, to figure out how we can make sure we still had our swag vibes for our virtual event. So we'll be able to talk about, Jake and Nathan will lead on explaining what each giveaway prize is at the time that we do them and how that works and how you can make sure that you have an opportunity to win the giveaway. After we do our first giveaway, we will have our next wonderful guest speaker, who is Alexandra. And Alexi, I'm saying it right? Because I always say Alexi, but
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I know you get that all the time in spelling and in pronunciation.
I have so many different names. My full name is Alexandra, but I generally introduce myself as Alexi, and most of my friends call me Lexi. So you guys can choose.
Okay, so we're gonna go with Lexi. So Lexi's going to talk again around her life, her powerhouse business, particularly around design. I mean, come on, you guys, if you don't know Two of Wands at this point, I'm kind of gonna say you're living under a rock. But yeah, I mean, Alexi is literally top tier, I would say, in this industry as far as being able to knit, crochet design, collaborate with brands, release collections. I mean, if you got a burning question about how to be a knit and crochet wear designer, this is your chance. If you missed Alexi at our New York event, look, it's been 5 years. So, I mean, it could be another 5 years. So really, I would encourage you guys to hone in about the wealth of knowledge that she's going to be able to share with you guys. And if you have questions that are particularly around knit and crochet pattern design and collaborating with brands around your design, dropping collections multiple times throughout the year, it's just like fashion vibes. I'm always like Project Runway with you, Alexi.
Thank you.
You know, this will be your chance to talk to her about that. Again, after Alexi does her, you know, I don't want to say presentation because it's a little bit more informal than that for this time around. But after she talks, we will also have a Q&A where you can ask her questions during the Q&A, and then we'll segue into a second giveaway. So it'll be the same vibes, different prizes around that. And then we will have another guest speaker, Toni of Tlyarncrafts, who I really just feel like, again, top tier, needs no introduction, just doing Crochet Academy. So I'm sure if not all of us are a part of Crochet Academy, you'll want to be a part of Crochet Academy once you hear Toni talks. Also just released her first published book, the Tunisian Crochet Handbook, a Beginner's Guide, published, that she just dropped this week. So, I mean, Toni, not to mention, I mean, I could just go now. I'll let Toni talk all about it, but crochet design, YouTube boss. I mean, I'm addicted to your Yarn Snob videos, Toni. I need you to make more. I literally binged them and cried.
I've got some pro stuff on this summer. Oh yeah, we'll make it happen.
So Toni has just really been top tier in our event, from going to events, collaborating with companies, doing design releases and design collections, being a forethinker and setting trends in our industry, like things like the Crochet Academy, and really tapping into the YouTube market with, I mean, hundreds of thousands of subscribers and supporters. And I do think that, again, if you have an interest in that, of especially with the way that the algorithm has been changing through Facebook and Instagram over the last few years, if YouTube is something that you wanted to get your feet wet in and tap into that market and see how can I be profitable through YouTube, or how can I just use that platform to continue my love for crochet and share that with my audience, Toni's gonna be your girl. You're gonna want to maybe ask her questions around that. And I just honestly think, you know, we should talk to her about, like, how do you do it all and stay awake? I mean, how?
I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know.
So, and I also really think being able to connect with your audience in a comfortable way. Toni makes it look easy, but she definitely puts a wealth of work behind the scenes, and she makes it look easy, but it's a lot of hard work of how she really, I think, has just hit the nail on the head as far as audience connection, audience development around product and service development and content creation. Top tier. So if those are things that hold your interest, I would really perk up when Toni is speaking and take advantage of asking questions again after her chat with us and throughout the day. After that, we'll have our giveaway again. And then we will segue into our final speaker, Kel Moore, who is with Brooklyn Tweed. I mean, I'm sure you guys can see through her beautiful background that she's top tier in the industry around design. So Kel is going to be talking about specifically Brooklyn Tweed yarn patterns and designs. And we really wanted to connect and fold Brooklyn Tweed in as a part of our virtual event this year, because they are going to be so instrumental, a part of our event in Portland next year. Because Kel, get me if I'm wrong, but Brooklyn Tweed is in Portland, correct? HQ,
yes,
correct?
we are.
Yeah. So if you guys did have a chance to snag a ticket for the OML Portland event, we may or may not have some more seats opening up. Can't promise anything yet, but Brooklyn Tweed is going to be in the house for that. And we've got some incredible, amazing opportunities of where, again, you guys will be able to possibly go behind the scenes and see things about fibers, which Brooklyn Tweed, I mean, I'll pop some quarry on so you guys can see, but That's just only one of the types of brands that Brooklyn Tweed holds. But I mean, when you really want to start segueing, I think I love my lower price yarn. I've got my Hugh and Me right here, Lexi, but I love my line brand. Go to Michael's, go to Joanne type craft stores to make with. When I started my business, that's all I could really get. When you have the opportunity to start getting into higher end yarns, pattern designs, and things like that, Brooklyn Tweed is up there where you want to be and where you want to explore. So I would really take advantage of that to talk to Kel about those fibers and all about the Brooklyn Tweed vision, because honestly, Jared's story is just pure incredible, pure so inspirational. Yeah, she's going to be able to offer us some gems for sure. That'll bring us to around 1 o'clock, a little bit before or after, when we'll have our final giveaway. And then around 1:15, could be a little bit before or after, we'll have our panel discussion, which will be all of the OML team and all of our guest speakers. And we'll be talking, again, we want that to, we'll be talking about things that are around particularly small business owner topic discussions, but we want this to be a place where it's transparent and an open floor. If you guys have ever been to an OML event before, raise your hand if you have. But you know that our panel discussions are always like this. They're transparent. Sometimes they can get a little hot and heavy. We're going to keep it lighthearted for this year because coming off of a global pandemic, I feel like lighthearted is what we need right now. So they will be around topics that are specifically key on helping us understand and grow our shops as small business owners and working with larger big brands like BT. But it'll be a chance to you guys to have a way for you guys to weigh in on the topic discussions, as well as being able to chat with our guest speakers and us as the OML team and with each other. So we'll talk about that for about 20-30 minutes as the panel, give or take a little bit more, but that'll be your time for you guys to really give your opinion, your insight, ask your questions. Don't be afraid, there's no stupid question, and this is a safe space as well. So don't feel like there's something where you're going to be judged if you ask, because you won't be. OML events have never been like that, and it won't be any different this time around. Around 1:45, we'll go into our knit and crochet along virtual style. So I encourage you guys all to have your whips with you. Knit and crochet, macrame, yarn dye, all that stuff is welcome. But through the knit and crochet along, we'll actually have breakout rooms. So around that time, Nathan will start a breakout room where we'll be able to see it in the bottom corner, in the bottom half of your screen. Right where all the other icons are, it'll say breakout room. There will be 3 breakout rooms, maybe 4, Nathan. Sorry, I keep getting confused. 4. So there'll be a knit breakout room, a crochet breakout room, a room called networking, where you can literally meet with some of the guest speakers and hand your virtual business card. So if you want to let them know what your Instagram handle is, your website, your blog, ask some more detailed pressing questions that maybe if you didn't get a chance to ask during their Q&A, you can pop in a breakout room. So I would assume that Alexi may pop over into the knitting room, Toni will be in the crochet room, Kels may be in the networking room, and they'll kind of pop in and out of each breakout room. We'll be in there as well, or you can just, if you want to just chill and hang out here in the main area and just work on your whips, ask questions in the chat, feel free to do that as well. But yeah, we'll start that. We'll start the breakout rooms around 1:45. Again, you'll be able to see that in the lower part of your screen where you can join the breakout rooms. And once we get close to, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm also operating on Central Time. So if you're, I'm sorry, this is all on Eastern time. So even though I'm in Chicago and Central, I'm saying all these timestamps on Eastern. So around 2:15, we'll start to wrap things up and bring everybody back into the main area where we'll have our final giveaway. And again, Nathan and Jake will lead on that, and that'll be our virtual event. So somehow I managed to stop right at 11:30. With the welcome. So without further ado, I'm not going to talk anymore. Shelli, the floor is yours.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Get some waves. So my name is Shelli Martinez. I'm an illustrator slash designer. My making skill is drawing. So I essentially draw things related to crafting and put them on stuff and sell that in my store. I have some notes that I'm going to refer to because I have a terrible memory and everything is like a pop quiz. So if I didn't have anything written down, I'd be like deer in headlights. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that up. So I'll talk a little bit about how I started my business. So, you know, everyone kind of assumes that it's like just a one decision thing. And I've started to realize that starting a business wasn't really a decision for me. It was kind of a process. I was freelancing and as a graphic designer, and I followed all these like cool illustrators on social media, and they were all creating merchandise with their designs. And I saw that as kind of an opportunity to do the same thing. It was a great way to support yourself as an artist and work for yourself and make your own choices and not be beholden to another company or organization. I live outside of DC, so a lot of the projects that I would work on were like soulless government reports and things like that, where I wasn't super stoked about all of the clients, but you know, you got to do what you got to do. So eventually I decided to transition. I was freelancing for a little bit, and then at some point I just decided to start designing things for makers. So knitting, I think I started with 2 designs. I ordered 100 pins, and I figured that I knew enough makers that if nobody liked my stuff, I could just give it away as gifts. I also started teaching classes locally, trying to meet new people, starting my social media and getting really involved in that. Anytime I would travel somewhere, I would try to set up a pop-up. So if I was going to go visit my sister who lives in California, I would like try to contact some local shops and be like, hey, can I do something at your shop? So it was a lot of extra work, and I would try to plan more than one thing in close proximity so that I could kind of maximize my travel expenses because I'm a broke ass artist. But it was a lot of fun. I got to go to a lot of different places and meet people, and it was really, really fun. And when I was writing those notes down, I just remembered how much of a good time it was, and I kind of miss doing that. So 2022, about to do all of the traveling again. I feel like I kind of started this week, and I'm in New York this weekend. So let's see, more notes. Oh yeah, one of my biggest challenges was probably feeling like I had to have everything prepared before I could start a business. So I think I had gone onto one of those like office supply websites, and I bought all of the things that I thought I needed. I had like boxes and packing tape, and you don't need it. Like you can just order small quantities of things at a time and start organically. And it was a process. I kind of worked a little bit doing what I'm doing now. I'm working full time for my own company now. But I would just do little bits here and there. So it was a really fun time. Now I'm able to not only work for myself, but I've been able to hire people as well. So I have 2 employees. They both work part-time. And I'm just really proud of that. Something happened with my screen. Okay. So I don't really have a lot. I mean, I have a few other notes about working through COVID, but Jewel, I'm not sure if you wanted me to save that for the panel, if it's okay to go into that. Is that cool?
That's totally cool. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So I have some tips. So one of the other prompts was tips that I implement into my business and maker life. So I have a couple. I love organizing. It makes me really happy. I have different methods for file storage, emails. I make a lot of to-do lists. Having a system helps me identify pending or completed tasks. And that way I just don't have to stress about anything. I have different folders in my email. I have this whole organizational structure for documents, artwork, photographs based on each project. It's super neurotic, but really, really helpful. And I can just kind of glance at something and know whether or not something needs to get done. Another tip I have is to do all the little things first. I think some people have anxiety about responding to an email too quickly, but I have no chill. And if I can get something out of the door that takes me a minute right away, it's the best thing, because then I can focus on something that takes longer, like drawing a large illustration. I like to have time to kind of relax and do that over a few hours. So getting things off my plate early in the morning as soon as possible is one of my favorite things to do. Let's see, what else? Just start. If you're unmotivated and you don't know what to do, just start doing something. This kind of applies to everything I do in life, but if I pick up my pencil, if I open my computer, making that first motion to get things going, I mean, I'll just end up working the entire day once I do that. Grow organically. I really like growing organically. I didn't like take out a loan or have any sort of cash flow to invest in my business. Everything was, little bits here and there that I was earning through freelancing. And that's how I had to do it. I didn't really have another choice. So I kept looking for new opportunities and taking measured risks. And by measured risks, I mean, taking a risk that, maybe putting a little money into something like applying for a show or, traveling somewhere, but not so much that I would be, out of all of my cash at the end of it. So it was just trying to make smart decisions about what my hopes were, and then kind of understanding what the benefits would be by participating in those types of things. So COVID was definitely a challenge. The past year has been definitely different, a struggle, but also interesting to see how things have unfolded. I realized that I kind of thrive in a social environment more than I thought I did. I definitely categorize myself as an introvert. I love being at home. I think for the first maybe 8 months of lockdown, I was fine. I loved it. I was like, this is normal. Nothing's different. But after a while, I realized that I wasn't knitting as much. I wasn't as inspired to do different projects. Everything I worked on was really a struggle for me to kind of like find that happy place of humor and joy and become inspired to do what I normally do really easily. And then as soon as people were able to start getting together again, I noticed a shift. I was knitting a lot more. I was making a lot more. I had more joy and fun, and the ideas came a lot more easily. So that was a big thing. Another thing I learned throughout the past year is that makers are the most patient, resilient, resourceful motherfuckers ever. I think we all kind of were losing our shit a little bit, but crafters are prepared. We know that we can keep our hands busy. We can do stuff. We know how to occupy our time. And it's a little badass. So I think a lot of other people were struggling and figuring out what to do with themselves. And people who engage in crafting have kind of a fallback to keep themselves busy. So moving forward, now that we're getting towards a post-quarantine world-ish, I mean, I know that this is kind of been in question, so it's a little bit crazy, but I've definitely learned to be ready for change. I've always in the back of my mind thought, at some point, everything's going to go away. People are going to get tired of pins. People are going to get tired of the merch. It's a fad. Everything's just going to stop completely. And so that's always been in the back of my mind, and COVID definitely threw that into the realm of possibilities. So I was like, all right, I'm ready. This is the end. I'm ready for everything to stop. And it didn't. It was just a shift in how to approach things. People jumped onto virtual events, learning how to kind of try to be as flexible as possible. And I also learned that everything is crazy, so just do whatever the fuck you want. You never know what's going to happen. Do what makes you happy, because life is short. A lot of people had a really difficult year. I had a difficult year. I saw other people having a difficult year. People went through so many hardships, and I feel a little ridiculous saying this, but you know, at some point a switch flipped and I was like, I'm choosing joy. I'm not stressing about anything. I'm not walking on eggshells or worrying about stuff. I'm just going to like bulldoze ahead and be happy about everything. So I don't know how much time that took up, but I am done with my notes and my spiel. So if anybody has questions.
Shelli, in true girl boss fashion, you're like right on time, right?
Nice.
We're doing good on time?
Yeah, we're great.
Okay.
And should people raise their hand? I'm not looking at the chat right now, so.
Shelli, I'm gonna spotlight you.
Okay.
So people can see you. And yeah, Christy, I don't know where you are in here.
I'm here.
Okay, can you see? Yeah, if anybody has questions for Shelli, raise your hand. And Christy, you can just call them out. I think we should be able to see y'all's raised hands. If you have a queue, maybe if we can't see your raised hands, I know that
I'm
we should
trying to find someone, but we do have someone with their hand up. So
Okay.
we're going to give that person the floor. Toni. It looks like that is our hand. I do have some questions in the chat too.
Well, I'll make mine super brief. So Shelli, it sounds like you learned a lot about yourself over the pandemic and are making some changes to infuse more joy into your work life. So I would love to know, like, maybe how you're doing that. What have you found works for you to make sure you're finding some balance between working and making sure you still love what you do?
So I've always known that I can be a little bit portable with my work. And, you know, I do have inventory. So I've, you know, in the past, I felt very tied to stick to where I am, to stay close by, to be ready to pack an order. And this past year, I have help now. So that's a big part of it. And I have the two most wonderful, amazing helpers that anyone could ever ask for. But I find that I thrive when I'm traveling and being social, and I'm making time for it. I'm making time for it, even if it's just going to visit my parents, getting out of my house, going and, you know, camping in the woods, doing whatever I need to do, going to see friends and engaging in more. I wouldn't call it time off because I do like to work in between activities.
You're muted. I think you somehow.
Was I muted the whole time?
No, just in the last couple seconds. No. Just your last point is when you went mute.
Just to make time for myself to do things that I enjoy. And I wasn't always a priority, but I'm making time for it now, which is really great.
Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, I have another question for you, Shelli. And it says, has your Threadbare series been successful? And would you change anything about it if you could?
Yes. It's funny because I am not a dyer or a knitwear designer. So I had no idea how people were going to respond. It's also a very unusual and funny prompt. So I'm working on my project now. But the response has been great. I mean, it wasn't about promoting anything of my own per se. It was just about doing something fun and engaging with people. But it's going really well. I don't know what I would change. I'm not a big joiner when it comes to knit alongs or crochet alongs. So I don't know. I don't have any point of reference. I'm just kind of winging it. But I have started talking to people about, you know, what they've done in the past. I started a Ravelry group and I never followed through with it. So just learning as you go.
Awesome. Okay, another one. Do you do custom designs and sell it as a design and not a physical item?
No. And it's funny. I have something written in I have like some notes of thoughts, just random thoughts that I have. So I do custom work occasionally when I have the time. My priority is always my own business because if I'm not running, then I can't do anything else. So I will do custom design in a collaboration form. But when it comes to selling artwork, you can license it. I think the types of things that I do, I'm kind of familiar with what types of products can be produced, things like that. And it really doesn't work as in favor to the artist as much as it does for the company. So, I mean, I'm thinking in terms more of a larger organization reaching out and asking for a custom design where, you know, I'll make a couple $100s for my time, but they'll be able to sell merch and make a lot more. So as an artist, I'm, you know, trying to set a standard in my industry. I'm trying to show that you can earn a living with your own artwork and on your own terms. There are ways of doing it, and like some people work on a budget, so that's actually the better way of moving forward, and it does work out for everybody. I also have to manage producing things, inventory, and it's a lot of extra work on that end, but it's just much more fulfilling and worth it. I can, you know, I can instill my own values, I can manage production, I can choose what materials and printing methods and all of those kinds of things. So just for me personally, doing custom design on commission isn't something I like to do.
Thank you. I have a few more. So I guess if we only had one from raise their hand, so I'm going to do 2 more questions and then we'll save any others for hopefully later. But here's one more. Do you take jobs to design logos for other makers' businesses?
No, I don't do logos. I have done some occasionally, especially with COVID. It was like, I had a little panic of what am I going to do? And I was kind of maybe edging back towards a traditional graphic design career. But different types of design take a different skill set. And I've been out of certain areas of graphic design long enough that I feel a little out of touch with what the specific terms of those types of projects mean. So right now my brain is like enamel pin design, which is kind of, you have to be very particular about the style of illustration that you're doing. And logos and branding, it's just a different mindset. So I do them occasionally if I feel like I connect with the project, but generally I say no because I'm usually working pretty much full time on everything I'm already doing.
You're doing so good answering all of these. Okay, last one, and then I'll save these. So how do you balance work that is for your own professional growth versus work for other people?
It's all based on time. So I have a pretty good sense of how much time I need to create products for my shop, to have enough inventory, to keep everything going, to keep my employees busy. And I kind of will know when I'll have a lull, and some ability to work on something. And at that point, you know, I try to also schedule things in advance. So that way I can know what my schedule will be like. So if someone reaches out to me and they're like, can you do something next week? I'm like, absolutely not. But, you know, months and months in advance is usually when I'm more comfortable taking on a new project. That way, even if I know that I want to do something, I can work around my obligations that I've committed to.
Sweet. Thank you. I will save any other questions. I'm getting them down in my phone right now. So, great. Jewel?
Awesome. Wow. So much so many gems you dropped there, Shelli. So you guys, if you click, just for anyone who needs to see where it is in the bottom part of your screen, you can click chat. And you can see all the awesome conversation that is happening over there right now. And also, particularly, you can see Shelli's socials and her store. So I encourage you guys all to check out Shelli.can. It's amazing, just so well designed. And also her Instagram handle where I can totally hear your voice on all of your posts, Shelli. I love it.
Thank you.
You do such a great job of connecting with your audience and just being real and authentic. And I love that. So you guys make sure that you give Shelli a follow over on Instagram and support her maker business. So again, Shelli will be hanging out, I'm sure, in the networking breakout room, maybe the knitting crocheting breakout rooms too later on this afternoon. So if you guys have more questions for Shelli, she'll be able to chat with you guys then. So awesome. Okay, so we are rolling right along here. Nathan, I'm going to give the floor to you and Jake in order to talk about the giveaway. Woohoo!
Start off, Jake.
Yeah, sure. So periodically throughout the day, we are going to be raffling off some pretty insane prizes. Nathan and I have technically had a year of getting this stuff, but realistically it's been like 2.5 years because we were prepping these, giveaway baskets for the other events. And so we've accumulated a lot. And this week, Nathan and I got to sit down and kind of put them all together. And we were sort of like, oh my God, we feel like Santa Claus. But it's been a lot of fun. So for those who haven't been in the chat or are just like averting their attention to the chat, please go in there and fill out that Google form. It is your automatic entry into the raffles throughout the day. Are we talking about the final OML prize?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. The ninth and final raffle prize is 2 tickets to our event next year for the winner and one person of their choice, which is really insane. So please fill out that Google Drive form. And that is how Nathan and I will be sort of picking winners throughout the day.
Jake, not to interrupt you, but people would like to know if they need to fill it out just once or every single time.
Oh, just once. I'm sorry. Yeah, just once. It actually, I think, only lets you fill it out once you put your email in. So, yep, once, and then you're good for the entire day. The only other caveat I want to add is that if you do win, we're going to announce your name here. We will follow up with you via email. Actually, live time. Nathan and I will be emailing people right now. You have an hour to claim your prize. You have an hour to respond to the email. After that, we will be picking a new winner. So keep an eye on your email during the event. And good luck. No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So usually at in-person events, you kind of see what's in each raffle, but we want it to be a surprise because all of them are so great. And there's similar items in each box, but I almost want to keep them for myself. I'm not going to lie. They're just that good. They're that nice. And I wish everyone could be a winner, but that's obviously hard for this virtual event. But just know if you win, you're going to be a happy maker. There's some pretty amazing things. Some of your favorite yarns, You and Me, Alexandra. There's merino camel. There's some hand dyed yarns from some amazing dyers. There's a Swift from Knit Picks. There's some Wool of Andes. There's We Are Knitters. There's some more Lion Brand. There's a lot of maker peripherals. There's maker bags from Delacue, Jimmy Bean's wool. So it either has a weekender bag or a backpack, and they come in different colors. And there's a lot more pins, candles. I can't name it all, but it's absolutely amazing. So each box is just filled to the brim, and yeah.
I saw Kelly in here of Rainbow Designs. She just came to mind because everybody's getting a luxury pom-pom from her who wins today too. Nathan, do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
You can go first, yeah.
All right. So the first winner of raffle prize number 1 is entry number 63. That is Dana Dyer of At This Yellow Farmhouse. So I will put up that information into the chat, and Dana, I will send you an email and you can claim your prize. Congrats.
All right. And
where you at, Dana? Congrats, Dana.
Dana, you just send it all to us. We'll just keep it.
Right. Yes, everybody's saying congrats, Dana. Woohoo, woohoo. And also, if you guys do want to take a little bit like Jake and Nathan are saying, we are keeping it mystery vibes and a little bit of a secret, but we have shared some hints on our Instagram page. So like even just how the virtual boxes look, our OML custom virtual boxes, like they're crazy, insane. So knowing that's filled up to the brim with stuff, it's rad. So make sure you guys enter. I really want the Swift personally, because True story, I've never owned a Swift. So even when I go, I know, Alexi, I see your face.
Everyone is asking me right now.
I don't know. It's one of my weird order things that I don't know. You guys let me know if you guys have things in your business, in your brand, that just little nuanced things that keep you humble. But when I first started knitting, like when I first started North Knits, I was in a 250 square foot studio here in Chicago. Newly laid off from a job that I was working in on the journalism side, that I had my bachelor's and my master's in, and I couldn't afford a Swift, basically. I couldn't afford a freaking Swift. I could barely afford one ball of yarn at Michael's, and I definitely couldn't afford to go to the nice local yarn stores around here. So I YouTubed how to wind your yarn, and I figured out how to do it on the back of your chair by hand. It still turns out okay. So I've just been doing it ever since. When I do go to the LYSs now, I do see them do the yarn Swift, and I love watching it. But it was always just, it was a reminder of like, remember where you came from and where you started. And I actually find it quite meditative sometimes. I'll listen to a podcast. But anyways, after seeing the Knit Picks Yarn Swift, I'm like, okay, I want to get my life now and get one because it's so fast. But yes, we are still making good time here. So
we're gonna do one more giveaway. It's gonna be 2 in between.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got one more?
We have quite a few. So
okay, go ahead.
All right. So the next one is, let me see. Right. Sharon Osborne. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly.
I hope it's the real Sharon Osborne.
I know, me too.
Sharon Osborne, let me.
Congrats, Sharon.
Congrats, Sharon. Where are you at, Sharon? Sharon Osborne, you won. Woohoo!
So those are the first 2, and we're gonna do 2 in between each Q&A.
Okay, awesome. Jules, I love how your name is Jules, and you're like, someone get Jules a yarn winder. Help me out, you guys. Get my life, because it goes so fast. Okay, so Jake, Nathan, we're good. We got our 2 giveaway winners. We're good to roll.
Yep, I'm gonna contact them now.
All right. Well, without further ado, Alexi can tell us all about her good yarn Swifts that she uses and so more.
Listen, I do have a yarn Swift, but I live between 2 places, New York City and upstate in the Catskills. And inevitably, wherever I am is where the Swift isn't. So when I need to wind something, I was doing the Knit Collage spring knit along, and all of that yarn, because it's like beautiful hand spun yarn, comes, in hank form. So you have to wind it all. And of course I didn't have my Swift, so I had to hand wind all of those. And I definitely used the back of the chair.
Yes. You guys let us know, are you team Swift or team back of the chair? Gotta see. Awesome. Okay, Alexi, the floor is all yours.
All right. Well, first, I just want to say thank you so much to Jewel and the whole OML team for having me back. I was a speaker at the very first OML event in New York City. How many years ago was that? 6, 5?
Yeah, like 5, 6.
Woo! Yeah. That was actually the kind of first time that I really connected with any other designers or makers. I kind of kept to myself a little bit before then. I'm not really sure why. I grew up knitting and crocheting, more so knitting. But I wasn't really like part of the knitting community, I would say. I kind of just like did it for fun, and I never really followed any other knitwear designers or anything like that. Still, I do only follow very few. But I went to that event and realized how incredible this community is. And I made so many friends there that have become lifelong friends, even outside of the knitwear world, some dear friends of mine. So I'm really grateful to OML for just bringing us all together. And especially after last year, it's just wonderful to have such a tight-knit community, no pun intended, where we can connect and do things like this. So, I don't know how many of you guys already know about me. I can give you a little bit of background on how I got started. And also a few days ago, I put a little question bubble up in my Instagram stories, just asking what kinds of questions and what things you guys wanted me to cover during my little talk today, because I want to make sure that what I'm telling you is valuable. And there were lots of questions, but I would say the main things that people were interested in were sort of like the business side of things, you know, how I got started and how I make money being a knitwear designer and kind of the different streams of revenue. Then there were questions about design, like how I find my inspiration, how I learned how to design and things like that. And then just some other questions were about, like, I actually had several people ask me, what is the most difficult part of my job? So I'll cover a little bit of that too. Just to touch on, because, you know, 2020 is still such a hot topic for us all. And I think we'll all be touching on that a bit. I just wanted to say that, you know, I am really lucky to have had somewhat of a smooth 2020 in comparison to so many other people. And I think one of the silver linings to come out of last year was just the fact that how lucky I feel to be in this industry, because it really did thrive. And I know that many people in the maker community also really enjoy being home and staying cozy. And a lot of you guys are introverts. I'm actually an extrovert. So I suffered a little bit, like not having access to friends and things to do or whatnot, but I kept myself very busy last year. I designed, I think, designed and released 53 patterns, which included 3 collections with 2 different yarn companies, We Are Knitters and Lion Brand. And I also launched a yarn along with Lion Brand called Hue and Me that some of you might be familiar with. So my 2020 was quite busy, and it feels like it was like a month long because it just flew by. And so this year, basically, I experienced some heavy burnout and I finally just feel like I'm getting back into the swing of things with fall coming up, and I have some really exciting projects. So now I'm kind of like in go mode again. But just to give you a tiny bit of background on how I got started, I am from Ohio. I grew up, my mom is an artist, and I studied fashion design at Indiana University, which is kind of a strange place to study that because it's not the most like fashion forward place. But I moved to New York right after school, and I actually started working for a nonprofit. And I did that. I was the personal assistant to the founder for, I think, like 8 years. And then I have this kind of dramatic story of how and why I started Two of Wands, which I can touch on. But if you are a maker wanting to turn your side hustle or whatever into a real business, it doesn't have to be this dramatic. But basically, when I turned 30, I climbed Mount Kilimanjaro with a friend of mine, and I really wanted to pursue something more creative. So I was kind of like had that on my mind the whole time I was climbing. And when we reached the top, we got down to the bottom. We had our tarot cards read by this woman who was staying at the same lodge as us. And she was, I'm really not that familiar with tarot cards actually, but she was reading my hand. And the last card that she turned over, she said was going to kind of dictate my future and what a path I should take over the next like 6 months to a year. And that card that she turned over was the Two of Wands card. And she explained to me what that card means is that you essentially have 2 choices. The face of the card is a man standing with 2 large wands in front of him, and one is a little bit farther away. And essentially you have one path that's keeping you stable where you are. And that's not necessarily a bad choice, but you're not going to experience anything outside or of where you already are. The other wand is leading you down a path of more obstacles, but will bring you to kind of greater happiness in the end, because challenges always make us better, right? And she said a lot of times this card means like you should change career paths or do something more creative, something that's a little bit scarier, but will fulfill you more. And she said, maybe if you're considering doing something creative with your career, you should change and do that. So I opened an Etsy shop and I called it Two of Wands, not knowing even what I was going to put in it. And I went back to Ohio about 6 months after that for an entire month to kind of just play with my mom's art supplies and see what I could create. And I've always loved to knit. And so it was the holidays at this point. It was like November, and I was knitting a bunch of things for holiday gifts. And I thought, I'll just put some of these in my Etsy shop because I didn't have anything in there yet, and we'll see what happens. And thankfully they did really well. And so that's how I really started this path. And what is really serendipitous about it that I didn't even notice right away is I started getting comments and messages from customers saying, oh, I love that you called it Two of Wands. Is that because like your knitting needles are your wands? And that's not how I came up with the name, but now it has this double meaning to me. So it must have been kind of the destiny all along, right? And so, yes, when I first started, I was selling finished pieces. I quickly realized that that's not scalable, nor was it super enjoyable for me, because I really enjoy the kind of puzzle and the process of design and creating something new each time, and kind of making the same thing over and over again was not super fulfilling to me. So I was always designing everything that I was making for my Etsy shop anyway. So I decided that if I wanted to have kind of a separate income stream to sell patterns, because that is more of like a passive income, or so I thought. Once you put a pattern out there, it can sell many times, and then, you know, you just let your baby off into the world and it's making you money while you sleep. Customer service, though, is where that fails, because the more patterns you have, the more emails you get too, and questions. And anyhow, so I was selling patterns, and I had stopped selling finished pieces, and then I got approached by Lion Brand, and this incredible opportunity to work with them came about. So a lot of times when you are commissioned by a yarn company, they pay you behind the scenes to create something using their yarn, and then you have to then offer that pattern for free to your customers. So that's what I was doing. And I had no idea what it meant to be a blogger. I didn't realize that you could make money off of like ad traffic to a website. So I had like a link to download the PDF for free. And so I was getting thousands of downloads of these patterns, but I wasn't making any money off of them past just that commission. And then I realized when I met some of the other designers who worked with Lion Brand, who were bloggers, they taught me like, no, you know, you can have a place where you put the pattern on your website, on your blog, and you can get ads. And then when people visit your website, you're going to make a little bit of money from that traffic. And Lion Brand also allows you to sell the PDF as long as you have it for free somewhere. So I shifted into then kind of being a blogger and offering most of my patterns for free. And each of these times I kind of restructured my business. There was like a dip in a learning curve of kind of how to then profit off of that form of business, if that makes any sense. And so one of the questions that I got when I asked you guys on Instagram was just, how do you make money doing what you do? So there's actually like quite a few different revenue streams. There's the commission from the yarn companies. There's, you know, you can sell finished pieces. You can make money off of paid pattern sales. You can make money off of blog traffic. You can be like Toni and have just like an incredible YouTube following and make money that way. Shelli, you can sell ancillary things like maker swag and hand-dyed yarn like Jake does. There's so many different ways in this community to make money, not just being a designer. So I would encourage you guys, if you have any specific questions about that, to ask me later on. And the next thing that I want to talk about is design, because I got a lot of questions about that. So I do have a fashion design background, but funnily enough, the program that I did at IU, we had to have a big fashion show our senior year, and I had 20 different looks, which was like 36 different individual pieces that we had to sew. We weren't allowed to use knit fabric because all of the techniques that we learned were all like hand sewing couture finishings. We weren't allowed to use sergers, if you guys are familiar with the sewing world. And so I really did not know much about knitwear and the drape of it and how it hung on the body in terms of garment construction. But that flat pattern technical design and understanding the shapes of different garments and how different pieces fit together and form over the body has been really helpful and has influenced a lot of my pieces. So I do have that design background, but to be honest, I'm still learning so much, and I feel like such a beginner when it comes to design still. There's so many amazing designers out there, and I look at like, how did you ever think to create this, and how did you figure it out? So if you are new to design, I think Shelli is the one who said it, you just have to start doing it. You know, all of these things, like you take that first step and it's going to lead you somewhere. And it's all about that 2 of Wands, choose the path of the discovery and of the obstacles. And we're all learning along the way. I think if you compare yourself to someone who has been doing this for many years and you're like, I'll never get there, they started where you did too. So there's so much that we are all still learning, and from each other too, which is another great thing about this community, I think, is that I have found that everyone is very willing to share knowledge with each other. I've met and become dear friends with so many other designers, and we are always texting each other, DMing each other behind the scenes, asking questions and getting support. And I'm just so grateful for all of you guys and all of your help as well. One thing I just wanted to touch on, just because this is something that I wrote in an Instagram post a few days ago, some of you may have seen, is like the whole, where does an idea come from, and what if it looks like someone else's, and copying and stuff like that. Because Janine from Knits Knots Winnipeg had created this beautiful tank top called the Chasing Summer tank. And it's a crochet tank just with like 2 front panels that kind of decrease or increase actually up to like little bust cups. And I was literally crocheting that exact, essentially same design when I saw her Instagram post with it. And I was like, oh no, I'm basically designing this exact same thing. So I reached out to her and she was like, listen, you know, I didn't invent this either. Like, of course, please go ahead with your design. And I was so grateful that she let me do that. And honestly, this happens all the time. So many of my friends who are designers too have like released something and then been like, oh no, this looks exactly like, you know, your design, whatever. It's completely fine. It's bound to happen. And I think that if any of you have read Big Magic too, there's like this concept that the ideas are not ours. They're coming from a higher source or a greater power, and we're gifted with them. So sometimes that can happen in 2 places at the exact same time. There's only so many things that you can design in the knitwear world anyway. So there's going to be a lot of crossover, but I do not condone serious straight up copying, because that does happen sometimes too. And it's just really not fun to be at the receiving end of that. But one thing that has really, the way that I design basically is I am always thinking about the mood and the feeling and the place and time where the piece that I'm designing is going to be worn. And when I come up with an idea, it's almost like I want to capture a feeling in an accessory or a garment. And I took this incredible class with Marianne Moody. If you guys are familiar with her, she's a weaver from Australia. I took her design concept course, and the way that she designs is she is constantly taking photos, images from Instagram or ripping magazine pages out that give her some sort of an emotional response. It could be a happy response or a sad response, whatever it is, but something that really impacts her emotionally. And when she goes to design a weave, she will hold that feeling in her body while she's doing the weave, and she'll use repeating patterns or organic or geometric shapes from these images in the weave itself. So it's like she's infusing a feeling into what she's making. And then she said, you know, she goes on Pinterest and she sees all these people copying essentially exactly her weaves, but they just don't look as good. And it's because they don't have that real authentic, you know, special quality to them, because they're not the original, right? So even if you find that someone is copying off of you or is doing something that looks exactly like yours, you may think it looks exactly the same, but it's not going to have that special quality that you're putting into it. So don't feel defeated if you see someone else design something that looks really similar to what you've come up with as well. I have not been looking at the time. So how are we doing? We may need to stop and ask some questions. I feel like I'm kind of also just like talking all over the place. So if you guys
can we talk to you forever?
No, it's yeah, you just keep talking. We're a little bit over, so maybe we should start working on a few questions.
Let's
that
do
would
some
be okay.
questions for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely open it up. If anyone has a question, you can raise your hand. And then if not, I do have some that have come through on the chat. So I'll give it a second and see if anyone is going to raise their hand. And if not, you know, I'll start with a question while we're here. There's one that just popped up. How not to feel defeated if no one works on your first few designs. Yeah, how did you work around that?
You know, I think one of the there's, you know, like I said, last year, I designed 52, 53 things. Some of them were great successes and many of them failed horribly. And oftentimes I don't know what is going to do well and what won't. Sometimes I have a really good sense about it, but you never know how it's going to be received. But the great thing about pattern design is that they live forever. So once you put it online, I've had patterns that were complete failures for the first year that they were released. And then maybe someone like a Toni of the world will like make it and share it with their YouTube audience, or someone will put it on Instagram and using a different color or a different photo or something like that, that just gives it new life. And all of a sudden I'll see a huge surge in people making that design. So please don't feel defeated if it's not an immediate success, because you're going to have plenty of time for that pattern to live and to accrue more sales. If you feel like, you know, you really want to promote it in some way, make sure that you're selling your patterns. There's so many different platforms. I sell on my own website, Ravelry, Etsy, Lovecrafts. You know, there's several places to market your patterns, and those are all like marketplaces where people are already going to those places to look for a pattern. So you're going to be more likely to be found. Start a newsletter, you know, connect with your customers in every way that you can, social media, and ask them questions too. Like, make sure you are, I would say there's two ways of going about finding out your kind of target market. You can either decide, this is the type of designer I am, I'm going to make what I want to make, and I don't care if you guys like it or not. You will find people that do. So that might take a little bit more time, or you can ask your existing audience, you know, what are you guys interested in? What kind of designs do you want me to make for you? And then you're kind of, you know, feeding your existing crowd with what they want. So, yeah, I guess, did that answer the question? I would say don't get discouraged, because there's always time for those patterns to do well in the future. And if you really think that they're just they're completely tanking, try making them in a different color, try shooting them in a different way. Sometimes it's just honestly the way the picture is being received. We spend so many hours creating and designing things, and then if it's not presented in a way that makes it look good, all of that is lost. So maybe try some different photos and stuff too.
Amazing. You guys are so good at answering these questions on the fly. Okay. When you started with Lion Brand, did they have a minimum frequency you needed to provide to them in terms of patterns, or was it more at your own pace?
When they first reached out, it was actually through an Etsy message. And luckily their design studio at the time, and they had a yarn shop in New York City just across town from me. So I went over and met with them, and they're like, yeah, you know, let's just try a design and see how it goes. And I got to go in the Lion Brand yarn shop and like choose the yarn I wanted to use. And it was very free flowing, and there weren't a lot of parameters. I think this was when they were first starting to kind of reach out to independent designers and bloggers. And so they didn't have a set program really in place, but that was 5 or 6 years ago now. So now there's more of like, it's organized really well. Mark from Lion Brand is like the sweetest human ever. And I don't know how there's like 50 different bloggers and designers that Lion Brand works with now. I don't know how he keeps it all organized, and also like emails you back in 2 seconds. I mean, he is on the ball. But so when I first started, it was just like a few designs here or there. There wasn't really a schedule for it. Now I'm on contract with them. And so I do have a set number of designs that I do for like monthly commissions. And then also I do 2 collections for Lion Brand a year, one in the spring and one in the fall. So they have different relationships with each different designer and blogger that they work with. And once you get in with them and you start working with them, they tailor, you know, the requirements to each individual person.
Amazing. Okay, I'm going to give you one more.
Okay.
And then we'll save the rest. So the last one, how do you plan, brainstorm, find inspiration for your collection and releases?
Yeah. So basically, like I said, I really like to start with a feeling or a mood, and kind of, I love designing collections because when you can show more than one thing, it really sets the mood. If you look at a fashion show, like a runway show or whatever, you know, all of the different things within a collection are kind of speaking to each other and creating like a capsule wardrobe essentially. So being able to do like 6 or 8 different pieces together kind of really sets like a theme to the collection. And I absolutely love themes. So usually I start with that theme, with the mood, and then that kind of influences the pieces within that world. So for instance, my spring collection this year was called the Polished Collection, and I named each piece after a different gemstone. And the whole idea was like, coming out of 2020, we were all wearing like sweatpants all day, you know, like sitting on a couch and not really feeling sexy or like presentable. So I wanted to create pieces that had really nice finishing techniques that felt almost like fancy. They can be dressed up or down, but things that are really polished. And so that's where the idea came from. And so I, with each piece, wanted to make sure that there were design details within each one that had a polished quality to them, something that made it look a little bit higher end, or, you know, less homemade and more handmade, if that makes sense. But I'll give you a hint. So my fall collection, which I just started designing, I haven't told anyone what the theme is yet, so you heard it here first, but it's called the University Collection. And it's kind of the idea, I have always loved like back to school, like, you know, shopping for clothing and even school supplies and stuff, and like that crisp pair of jeans and layered knitwear and everything in fall. It just all kind of is like a whole mood for me. So each of the pieces in that collection are going to be kind of like named after and inspired by kind of like that collegiate mood. Yeah,
I am so excited for that. That's going to be awesome. Lexi, thank you so much. Okay, so I have some more questions, but we'll save those till the end.
Okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Let me see. I don't know. Am I muted? Am I still muted?
No.
Okay.
You're good.
Wow, Alexi, so many gems, and so accurate that you named your latest collection the Polished Collection after beautiful stones and gems, because the knowledge that you share is just that, it's gems. I know that I could and want to talk to you more about your design collection and how you run your business, and so many other items that you were talking about around maker copying and copyright and stuff like that. Also very, very important topics. And I don't think that it is any coincidence that you even started to segue over into talking about those, because that is topics that we want to touch on during the panel as well. So Alexi will be able to weigh in more on that. And we've had really in-depth conversations, I think in particular at our Toronto event, about copying. So again, don't be shy, however you feel about it, to weigh your opinion in. We want it to be open floor, because I know without a doubt that we all have our different opinions on that and what we've seen in the community and how we feel about it. So Alexi, thank you for even being transparent. Your story about you and Janine having similar releases, you even shared that on your Instagram. And it's those type of things, again, where you and Shelli and Toni, people on the OML team here, do so well in connecting with your audience and really about content creation. Those type of things, you guys, are really alongside having a mood with your design that you're trying to create. That's really a heartbeat of content creation, being transparent and vocal and not being afraid to show those things about what's going on in your business. So being able to have that conversation, even as an Instagram post, front of the house, Alexi, I saw it and it just immediately, I was like, I got something to say. Yeah, I really want to weigh in. And it's those type of things, I think, that also, along with all the other things that you have going on, like elevate your brand. So thank you. I know that your time is so valuable, and I just appreciate you sharing all that information with us. And I can't wait to hear more from you throughout the rest of the day. So you're more than welcome. So Jake and Nathan, the floor is yours again for our next giveaway.
Okay. Oh, wow, Nathan, did you see that? We drew names right next to each other. So full disclosure, when you guys enter, everyone's assigned a number, like the number guessed, and we just pulled back-to-back numbers. So Nathan, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So my drawing, the lucky winner is, let me go here, Alicia Lopez, or Alicia Lopez. I'm saying that right?
Of Crochet and Mascara.
Yeah. Congrats,
Alicia. Is Alicia? Come on down. Oh, there she is. Yeah, that's me, yeah. Alicia Lopez. Woohoo! Congrats.
So I'll be contacting you right now.
Awesome. And my winner, number 138, is Erica Dahlquist of Lemoore Knots. So Erica, congrats. You're a winner. I wonder if Erica's in here. Erica, I'll be emailing you.
Awesome. Congratulations, Alicia and Erica. Woohoo. All right, we are rolling right along here. So without further ado, I am going to let our lovely Toni of Tlyarncrafts take the floor. You guys don't want to get me started introducing Toni, because I'll go through the whole event just talking about Toni and all the amazing things she's done. So Toni, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Jewel, and to everybody at OML. I hope you can all see me okay. I am going to keep this brief because I feel like I've been talking a lot lately, and I'm just Whew. But I hope everybody's doing well. Thanks for hanging out with us today. I'm not gonna lie, and I was waiting for the right time to say it. Speaking at OML has been on my crafty bucket list for like a minute. So this is like a really huge deal for me. So I want to thank y'all for having me and everybody who came to hang out. So I made myself some notes. They're not in any particular order. So I'm gonna start with how I started. Pros and cons of 2020. I'm glad that we're creating a space to talk about it because like it's all been up here. So it's nice to kind of get it out and commiserate with you all. Also want to talk a little bit about how my business is changing because I definitely feel like my business went into like a wash cycle in 2020 and I'm taking it out of the wash and deciding what I want it to look like now. So it's kind of this really great season of refreshing and looking forward to decide like, what was I doing before that was working? What do I want to do now moving forward? So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And if I get to it, I have some solo biz tips at the bottom because I know that there are folks who are starting a business or transitioning into full time. So, you know, I finally feel like I'm in a place to maybe offer some wisdom on that. And it might not be what you're expecting. So get ready. So I am Toni Lipsey. I'm the crochet designer and educator behind Tlyarncrafts. I've been running my business since 2013. And I just love hearing everybody's kind of origin stories because they're all so different. Yarn was not always part of my life. I did learn when I was 13 from my mom, who is a phenomenal crafter in every way. And she kind of turned me on to crochet when I was quite young and I just needed something to do. But then I became a full-on teenager and eventually went to college and yarn was not part of that area in my journey. So I put my yarn down for like basically 10 years and picked it back up when I was 23. I had moved to Ohio just out of college, which was like amazing. I loved it. I feel like I was so myself. And then I just kind of had this hard transition into being married, living in a new city, becoming an adult, having to find a job in the middle of a recession. And it was just all such a massive shift that I think my brain was like, cannot compute. So I needed to find something to ground myself. I needed to come back to center and I needed, like, my thoughts were just all over the place. So after some trial and error, I finally got back to crocheting. I ended up inside of a Michael's, got to the yarn aisle, and like Alexi was saying, like, this stuff has a feeling. And I walked into that aisle and I was like, I'm feeling this. I'm feeling like I need to explore this and to revisit this. So I did, and crochet was a very personal thing for a couple years where I just made for myself. And I used that as a time to slow my brain down so I could figure out what I was even gonna do with my life. So time passed. I do more yarny things. I'm gifting things to friends and family constantly. Eventually they were like, hey girl, you know, we good on them hats. I really like this one I got, but that's enough. And I was like, oh, okay, I got it. So I knew I wasn't going to stop making all these things. And that was kind of like how Shelli was saying, it's beginning a business is not like a yesterday I didn't have a business and today I do. I feel like it's a journey that you're probably moving in that direction already if you haven't started your business and you've been considering one. So I already knew that I was going to continue doing yarny things and I needed a way to get them out of my house because I don't even wear hats. So I needed somebody to buy them. And that's when I started doing craft shows. And that was a whole different experience. And similar to Alexi, I'm also an extrovert. Didn't even know it until that happened. I started doing shows and I was like, I'm home. These are my people. Just communicating with other makers. This was the first time that I had really done that. I hadn't been to like a meetup or anything like that, crafty related. It was all just me inside my house doing my thing. So craft shows were an amazing social opportunity for me and also a great way for me to connect with my customers directly. People can't lie to you when they're standing in front of your face and looking at your stuff. Like, they're going to tell you with their body language, with their words, with their dollars, how they feel about what you're doing. So when I decided that these were my customers and I needed to create an experience that they connected with, that's how I continue to kind of grow and develop at shows. So it started with just a couple shows. Eventually, because I can't do anything halfway, I was doing like 8 or 9 shows in 3 months of a season. And so I kind of burnt out a little bit with that. But thankfully, at some point, I had picked up designing as well. I had also joined Instagram and had put up my first post, which is a picture of my cat, which I didn't even know was on brand back then. So, these things were kind of falling into place. So it was an easy transition out of craft shows into designing full time, which is where I am now. I've been designing full time since 2016. No, I've been designing full time in Tlyarncrafts since 2016. I quit my day job in 2017 to do this like full on, I would say 40 hours a week, but it's like all the hours a week. So, let's be clear. So yeah, that's what I do. And my main things going on right now, I'm running Crochet Academy, which is a beginner focused, just crochet wealth of knowledge that I'm putting out into the world. That's going to follow with the crochet along that starts on August 2nd. I also just announced my book. So excited to be publisher mates with OML. Like when I found out about that, I was like, oh, that's so exciting. So that is awesome. The Tunisian Crochet Handbook available for pre-order now. What else? Just kind of focusing on, I don't know, what my business is going to look like coming up, because I think there's going to be a lot of things changing, and I'm going to explain why. So 2020 was kind of crazy. It's a little nuts. I think makers and creative people were kind of in this weird place where like we're all dealing with our own personal stuff. I think, some people's years were more challenging than others, but there was also this mad dash of new folks being introduced to or revisiting craft. And there were some of us in the industry who have self-designated ourselves as experts, and we're like, oh, hey, welcome, let me teach you all the things. And some folks, myself included, really use this opportunity to thrive and to like show our best side. So I did a lot of teaching. I ramped up my YouTube channel. I put my blog into overdrive. I was posting on Instagram like it was nobody's business. I was extremely present, and I don't regret it for a second, but I will say now that we're transitioning out of what felt like this really kind of chaotic era for me, now I'm looking back at my past self like, girl, why were we moving like this? Why is this pace so fast? Why are we taking responsibility for everyone's learning? It's I think I'm in this place now, and I don't know if it's just because 2020 is over or I turned 35 last month, but I'm like, I'm about to be doing half of what I'm doing right now. I'm not even kidding. So let's talk pros and cons of 2020. Pros, endless creativity. I felt like if you were open to it, creativity was flowing like a freaking river. It was rushing like crazy. I wrote down so many ideas. I had so many plans, and thankfully I didn't try to execute all of them at the same time. But even Crochet Academy was something that came out of 2020, just seeing the massive growth that I had on my education platform. So my blog and my YouTube, people were really looking to learn. Also a pro, it was a great opportunity for growth and for making friends. 2020 gave us the opportunity to connect with the people that we really liked in a different way, but also to open ourselves up to new connections. And I think if I'm being honest with myself, I had a lovely crutch of friends that I could always turn to and always talk to and always lift me up. So I didn't really make myself open and available to new people. But when you're connecting with everybody digitally and you're, doing the customer service or just responding to DMs, whereas maybe before you hadn't been, it just made you aware that the world is a lot bigger than you were letting it be. So you can open that door to making some new friends, which was great. I think one of the cons for 2020, at least for me, was that I felt like burnout was always around the corner. Like literally every morning I woke up, I was like, if I do this one more thing, I'm gonna explode. So I feel like that was always kind of a looming concern. And I tried my best to set my business up so I wouldn't get to that point. But it was literally like the water's here and my nose is here. like the whole time. I'm not even kidding. And then also a little tough was kind of maintaining boundaries. So while it was a really great time for making new friends, if you open that door too wide, it's a little tricky to close it again if you open that door too wide. So making sure you don't turn that faucet on full blast and making yourself too accessible, I think is super important. But I feel like that's maybe something you don't even learn until you make the mistake. So just throwing that out there. So how things are changing for Toni and Tlyarncrafts in 2020. First off, my word for this current season in life is pace, and understanding that I set my pace and not anybody else. I think I was kind of swept up in a tide of like, how much content can you produce? And do you have time for more? Can you do more? Can you do another collaboration? Can you come out with another idea? One more blog post, one more video, one more Instagram, just whatever it was. And I think I have come to this place where I'm like, I'm very, very comfortable taking my foot slightly off the gas. Not all the way off. We're not about to hit no brakes, but I'm just going about 100 and I need to be going like 45. How else is it changing is balancing what I do with what I love. I think the balance between Toni and Tlyarncrafts kind of tipped into the Tlyarncrafts way, and I want to develop more balance. So crochet was originally a response to a need that I had in my life, and it continues to be. It's the place that I go back to center myself. So having personal projects that I could infuse into Tlyarncrafts is something that I want to explore more. So like my temperature blanket, for example, or like this scrappy granny stripe blanket that I'm working on. Honestly, blankets are my favorite thing to make. And the more I think about it, I'm like, why am I just not making more blankets? Why am I just not doing what I want to do? And when you run your own business, I think sometimes it's tough to remind yourself, like, I could probably make it work by continuing to do what it is that I love and focusing on what I love to do as opposed to constantly taking the advice of others. Yes, the company is going to ask you to make garments, or they're going to ask you to make amigurumi, but if that's not your thing, you need to be okay saying like, no, that's not really a good fit for me. Maybe here's 10 other people who might be interested in this. And then lastly, kind of in that same vein, is just being a little bit more picky, being okay saying, nah, that's not a good fit, or no, I really want to work with that yarn. No, that timeline doesn't work for me. No, I can't go do this event. Like giving yourself the permission to be like, I'm open to things, but I can say no if I want to. And knowing that saying no doesn't automatically close that door. So if you want to work with a company or with an indie dyer or with another designer or something, and the first idea isn't a good fit, that doesn't mean you can't come back with another idea. So just staying open and saying no when you want to. I'm going to close it out because I know you guys got questions, but I had some solo maker biz tips down here that I have to share, because I'm like, I feel like there have been a lot of people who are like, oh my God, I love to crochet and I'm going to turn it into a business. And I'm like, ooh, girl, that's a lot. Like, just understand that there are levels to this. And like Alexia was saying, there's a lot of different ways to make money here, and not all of it has to become a maker career. So that's my first piece of advice, is like, just because you want to make money from your yarning things doesn't mean you have to start a company. Like, you can submit a design to a magazine. You can do that literally one time and be like, that was fun, I'm going to go do something else. Like, you don't have to come out with a design every month or every few weeks. You can test projects. You know, maybe you don't want to create your own things, but you really love the excitement and the variety of trying different projects. Become a pattern tester, or just make for fun. You can do that too, like forever. You don't have to monetize all of your hobbies or any of them. Like, I'm giving you permission not to start a business. And also just be able to close the door. I think that's one of the tricky parts that we have as makers and creatives. When the creativity continues to flow, we just want to leave that door open, and we're in this life that we just feel the need to share everything all the time. You don't have to. You don't have to post on Instagram every time you start a new project. You don't have to share 100% of yourself with folks. So I'm just gonna leave that there for you to do with what you please, and we can take some questions.
Toni, you have given us so much information, and I feel like people are like, I don't have any questions because you've done so well explaining it. Okay, but as a fellow Columbus, Ohioan, that was where I was born and bred and went to Ohio State. So I am all about Columbus, Ohio. It's so nice. And whenever people bring it up or say they're from there, I miss it so, so much. Yes, everyone, Ohio.
Gorgeous right now. Gorgeous.
Oh gosh, it always is. Okay. So one question on your first book, because of this book just coming out, are you going to be doing autographs, and where will it be sold?
Sure. So the book is available for pre-order on my website. Whether you purchase the individual book or the bundle that I actually collaborated with Jake on, those books will be signed. So any books that you purchase from my website will be signed, and I cannot wait. Like, I literally rented a garage so I can put all the books in there so you guys can buy all the books and I can sign them all. Not even kidding. So you can get it there. And then it's also available from my publisher, Abrams. It's available on Amazon. Those ones are not signed, but especially if you're international, the shipping from my site is like bonkers. So just get it off Amazon, but you can find it there too. And Barnes & Noble and all that good stuff.
Cool. Perfect. Okay. Also, so when you started your business originally, did you do an LLC, self-proprietorship, anything else?
Fun fact, I actually just got my LLC like 3 weeks ago. So I've been a sole proprietor since I started my business in 2013. The only reason I got an LLC is because my tax bill last year was through the roof. So another con of 2020. It was a great year, but those taxes were rough. So I did not start an LLC until last year. I didn't have the need to. But I guess my advice around that is to find somebody in finance that you trust. I have a CPA now and a bookkeeper because I know what my strengths are and they're not finance. So, don't be scared to bring on some help if you're not sure.
Amazing. Okay. If anyone else has any questions for Toni, throw them up in the chat. I will put them in my phone. My son is obviously very excited too. Okay. So I'll let Jewel handle the next part. We've got some more raffles.
Okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, we can.
Awesome. Yeah, wow, Toni, I'm trying to like share you on social media and like listen to all the same things. You're sharing so much awesome good knowledge, and you are a girl boss in every sense of the term. So I thank you so much for taking your time on, like, I put your quote of like, sure, like I would say I work 40 hours, but let's be honest, I work all the hours because wow, that's such real talk. Sometimes, and I know you can speak to this, when we want to, we look at other people and we want to make that full-time entrepreneurial jump. And sometimes as entrepreneurs, happens in this business, just like it happens in so many other businesses, you can end up working more hours than you ever would at a 9-to-5. So I totally hear you. And I think the word of the day that Toni really hit the nail on the head on is self-care. Self-care within your business, self-care in being able to step outside of your business, self-care and not comparing how you run your business to how someone else is running, because I've seen that transition from you, Toni, before you went full-time and you were already rocking it. Then when you made that jump, and like you said, I'm sure you just hear from so many people of saying like, I want to do what you're doing, Toni, how do you do it? And it's like, well, number one, I give you permission to not feel like you have to do it how I'm doing it, or how Shelli's doing it, or how Lexi is doing it, or how Jake is doing it, or how OML is doing it. Like, we've had that too, of like people are like, oh, OML, that's easy, we can do that. And it's like, is it though? Because we're over here drowning. I've even had to give myself permission from that as well. Like, I battled a lot between wanting to stay in my field because I got my degrees in journalism and mass communications. And even though I love NorthNets and I love OML, I've struggled with, through so many facets of running my business, wanting to let my mass comm go so that I could do NorthNets and OML full time. And then there were literally times in OML where I was doing all three full time. like legit hitting 70 hours a week, and the burnout can be real. But like you, I've had to give myself permission and a bit of all of them to just press the brakes a little bit so that I can be more strategic and all, because I do think the saying is true. You know, if you're doing so many things, you can't do all those things well. Like sometimes you got to be able to take a step back and make some sacrifices, make some tough decisions, and give yourself permission to slow it down, because hey, we're running a marathon here. It's not a sprint, and your race doesn't have to look like anybody else's. I literally ran a marathon, like a real one, to realize that. I was like, oh, okay, I'm running my own lane and I can't finish unless I'm focused on what I'm doing. If I'm looking to the left or right all the time, I'm literally going to run into a pole. Wow, Toni, thank you so much. I see so many questions coming through in the chat. And so I know that people will have more questions and you'll have more answers during the panel and in the breakout room. So thank you so much. And congratulations on your accomplishments literally in the last 7 days, girl. In the last month, like between Crochet Academy and your new book, which, like you said, I'm so happy that you're a part of the Abrams Publishing family. So you guys, please go and support Toni's new book that's available for pre-order, drops in October. We've shared the links to her Instagram handles and her website in the chat. So make sure you go and check that out, because I think Tunisian crochet is one of those things where it's like, I want to learn, you know what I mean? I'm going to learn, but do I have to YouTube it though? So Toni's dropping the knowledge now in beautiful book form. You can also support Toni through our first Art Maker Life book that we dropped, her stories there, and also our latest release also through the Abrams Publishing family, the Art Maker Life book. So without further ado, Jake and Nathan, the floor is yours again.
I just want to add, Toni, that was all so great. And now after 3 years of trying to convince you that I'm going to learn Tunisian crochet, I actually have to do it because my yarns so I'm
gonna hold you to it. You think I won't, but I will.
Like the amount of times I've sent Toni patterns being like, I'm gonna do this, and then it just never happens. Okay, so the next raffle winner is number 111. That is Sarah Kierton. Sarah Kierton, you're a winner. And I will be emailing you about your awesome prize.
Where you at, Sarah? Come on down, Sarah. Congratulations. Woohoo!
Oh, Sarah, there she is. Woo!
There you are. Awesome.
All right, so the next one after that is 163, Helen Rafalo, and Ocean Diver 32 at your email. Well, your handle.
I'm definitely curious about her handle for sure.
I'm sorry, Knits and Pups.
Well, I'm really curious about that one too.
Helen, are you here?
Where are you, Helen? Congratulations, Helen. Congratulations to all you guys who are winning these giveaway prizes. #jealous.
Yeah, and if you can't respond, I know a lot of people who are watching on the phone, sometimes it's hard to get to the chat feature. Nathan's still we're still gonna email you, and you can claim your prize there. So just because you're not commenting, it's okay. We'll still send you your prize info.
Awesome. Well, unless you guys have anything else to share around the giveaways, any more sneak peeks, we can keep rolling here. We're making good time. We've actually, we're about 5 minutes or so early, are ahead of schedule. So without further ado, I can't believe we're already on our final speaker. Like, the time is just flying by. But Kel, where are you hiding, Kel? Oh, okay, I see you. So again, if you're just coming into the room, we're going to be speaking with the amazing Kel Moore, who is with the Brooklyn Tweed. And I will just go ahead and let her introduce herself, and you have the floor, my dear.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having us here today. We're super excited, and we can't wait to see you all in person in Portland soon. We are so excited for that. Yep, I am Kel Moore from Brooklyn Tweed. I am one of our marketing coordinators on our little marketing team. We've got a team of 12 folks here in Portland, Oregon. People often think we're a lot bigger than we are, but we have a good little team. And Brooklyn Tweed started a little over 10 years ago as a yarn company. Before that, Jared had the blog and was designing. And then he had the question, can a person, just as a person, as an individual, as a small business, create a beautiful handcrafted style yarn completely in the United States using American wool, using American manufacturers? Can it be done? And so he started investigating this back starting around 2007, 2008. And he originally envisioned this as just being kind of a one-off project. He was going to make a yarn, see if it could be done, make a little bit of it. If it worked, great. If not, he was going to have a lifetime supply of really beautiful yarn in his apartment. And so we started, our first yarn shelter was launched in 2010. We worked with 9 local yarn stores around the country. We're the original Brooklyn Tweed stockists. And now 10 years on, we're here in Portland. We've got our team. We work with about 100 wonderful yarn stores around the country and around the world. We've got, several different yarn assortments available. We're getting ready to release a new yarn next month, which I will tell you about in a little bit. But yeah, Brooklyn Tweed really started as a question, and that's something that we've tried to stick with as we go on. We're known for making hand knitting yarns, for design, for patterns, but we think of ourselves as more than just a yarn and pattern company. For us, we're always investigating what more can we do, and keeping that question in mind. What can we create beautiful products for people to use and enjoy, working entirely with domestic manufacturers, domestic makers, in the most sustainable way possible? And what else can we do with wool? Because we all love wool, we love knitting, we love that tactile quality of working with objects. So what else can we do with wool is one of our big questions always. Recently, we've been collaborating with Martha from Tuft Woolens on an awesome line of lanolin-based handmade soaps. If you haven't used any of her soaps, they are wonderful and amazing. She's created 3 exclusive fragrances for us, the newest of which we just launched yesterday on our website, Greenpoint Garden. It's super amazing, a beautiful herbal, leafy green smell. So we're super excited about that. Let's see, let me pull up my notes here. So yes, making is so important to us, as a philosophy, as what we do. I think most of us who work at Brooklyn Tweed, we didn't start out thinking that we were going to work for a yarn company. Jared is a painter and photographer. Luigi is an opera singer. My background is in costume design. And then I was also working in IT. A lot of people who went to art school working in IT out there. But then I had the opportunity to make the jump. I was actually our first Portland employee when the company moved from New York to Portland back in 2015. Jared grew up here in the Pacific Northwest and wanted to have the company in a place where people could all live and work in the same space, because the team in New York was scattered around. We had some folks in New Hampshire, some folks in New York, some folks working around in all different places. So he wanted to come back, be near family, love the Pacific Northwest. So I was working in IT at the time back in DC, and I was sitting at my desk one day and looking at Facebook like you do, and all of a sudden up on my screen popped the announcement that Brooklyn Tweed was moving to Portland and was hiring. And I was like, that is my job right there. That's gonna be me. I'm gonna go work for Brooklyn Tweed. I was familiar with Brooklyn Tweed because I had actually been working at one of the original 9 Brooklyn Tweed flagships when Shelter was launched back in 2010. Shout out to Fiberspace and Alexandria. And before that, even before Brooklyn Tweed became a yarn company, we had done some events with Jared over the years. So I was really familiar with the brand. So I was super excited to make the jump. So back in 2015, I quit my IT job, packed up my stuff, moved to Portland, and I have been with Brooklyn Tweed ever since. I was managing wholesale sales up until last year and then moved over into marketing to get into a bit of the more creative side of what we do, which has been super great. And so here we are. One of the big things that we have been discussing and learning as a team throughout the pandemic is to, like Toni was saying, to think about, why we're doing the things we do. Do we need to do things the way we've always done them? As a brand and as people, we are a team of like crazy perfectionists. We want everything that we do to always look as polished as possible, to be as perfect as possible. But one of the things that we've been learning during the pandemic is that, we don't always have to be perfect. We don't always have to be polished. And really the most important thing is to connect to people and let them know why we're doing what we do. We've kind of had a philosophy for a while that, our work speaks for itself. But if you don't tell people what you're doing and why you're doing it and what you're thinking about when you do it, then your work, they may not know why you're doing what you do. And, it's okay to talk about your work and be like, hey, I'm really excited about what I'm doing and I want to tell you why. Like, I want to tell you that I'm working with ranchers around the country and that we are using American wool and that we are working with these amazing small businesses at mills and dye houses. And these are the folks that we work with, and we're super excited about what they're doing. And we want to reach out and collaborate with other makers. That's a thing that we've learned too during the pandemic, is that we're so curious and we always get so interested in wanting to learn how to do more and more things. But as a business, you kind of have to rein yourself in and be like, okay, is this a good idea for the business to get into? Like, do we need to know everything about how to make soap as a business? Or can we work with Martha at Tuft Woolens, who already knows all about how to make soap? And can we collaborate with her to make an amazing soap? We don't have to become the soap making experts or whatever other kind of, thing that we don't know about yet, but we can reach out and work with awesome people that are already doing this and get a little taste of it. And that really inspires us creatively. And so, yeah, we don't have to do all the things. And getting to reach out and be like, hey, we really admire what you're doing. Can we work with you? That's been really wonderful to do. We've been trying to do that more during the pandemic. When we released our yarn Dapple last summer, one of the things that we did in light of all the things that were going on in our social environment at the time was like, we're getting ready to release a yarn that uses American cotton. Let's think about that. Let's think about the history of American cotton. Let's recognize the impact that that has had on building the society of this country. And so we reached out to some awesome diversity consultants who also had a background in fiber and in fiber history, and in the history of African Americans working in textiles, in African American agriculture. And so we're like, hey, we want to know more about this. We need to know more about this. We want to tell people more about this. Can you work with us? Can you help us? So we had 3 amazing consultants write some beautiful blog posts for us that are up on our website, and educated ourselves. And we put that information out there, and we're like, hey, this is a beautiful yarn that we're making. Here it is. It's a beautiful yarn on its own, but if you want to know more, these are the things that we learned, and we want to pass that on to you. So yeah, getting to reach out and just working with more people and feeding our curious minds and finding out, you know, what are the things that are related to what we do that we can bring into our Brooklyn Tweed fold and then pass on to other people. So that's been really, really exciting for us as we learn new ways of doing things. Let's see. Also during the pandemic, a big thing that we learned to do was we always like to do things in a very measured way. Again, we love that polish, but we learned to jump on things if we had an idea. We did our Apart Together initiative last March, right as we were going into lockdown. That was an initiative that we did to help support our local yarn stores, where folks could shop either on our website or at their local yarn store, get a discount, and we would credit it to the yarn store. So people could save a little bit on money, get some great yarn. If their yarn store was shut down and they couldn't shop there, they could buy something on our website and credit it to the store, or they could buy something at their store at a discount, and we would credit the store for the difference. And that was an initiative that we came up with and implemented on the Friday before our team was about to go into lockdown. Like, we came up with the idea in the morning. By the afternoon, we had a name for it. We announced it. We put it out there in the world, and we were like, we don't even know how this is going to work, but we have to do this right now because we've got to do this. This is time. This feels right. So we're going to do it. So that's a big thing that we've learned is, like, if we have an idea and it feels right to us as a company, do it. And the same thing with our Dapple release. We were getting all ready to release the yarn. And initially, when we had thought about the release of Dapple, we were like, this is a fun summer yarn. It's wool, it's cotton, it's bright colors. It's going to be really fun and happy. And that was initially the plan for it. And then we were like, wait, there's so much going on in the world right now with the murder of George Floyd, with all the social unrest that's going on in the world. We can't just do this business as usual, just release this as a regular old yarn. We want to do more. So we put the brakes on the release. We held things for a month. We reached out to our diversity consultants. We did the work, and we were like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're doing it. We realized we wanted to set up a charitable donation aspect with the yarn. So we went back, crunched the numbers, figured out what we could do. So now every purchase of Dapple, 3% of the profits go to the National Black Farmers Association in perpetuity to help support Black Americans in agriculture. You can find out more information about that on our website as well. And so, yeah, so that's been a big thing for us, is just really examining what we're doing. What does it feel like to us as makers, as people, and really being not afraid to embrace our authentic selves as people and as a business. And that can be scary, especially when you do have a reputation for being very polished. to be like, hey, we're stepping out from behind that. This is who we are. These are the things that are important to us. We all work at this company because what we do is important to us. We've stepped out of other lives and other plans, and we are putting ourselves out there. So let's tell people about that and encourage other people to do the same thing. And that's been really, really great. It's been a lot of fun. So I'm getting some questions about what's going on behind me here. So I want to share that as well. Oh, and real quick, I will also share that we have, as a thank you to everybody, we've got a discount code for 15% off all of our yarns to use through the end of the month at our website. So come and give us a visit and can save a little bit on some yarn. And also, if you want to learn more about the Brooklyn Tweed philosophy, we just put out a video where we started talking about our new soap, Greenpoint Garden, and then wound up really getting into a deep philosophical discussion about sort of the whole Brooklyn Tweed philosophy and how we were packing that all into a bar of soap. So check out our YouTube channel. And again, this is kind of a new style of video for us. We've been doing these very polished videos, very like fashion oriented. And we're like, you know what? We need to just like sit down and just connect with people and talk about what we do and what we're thinking. So that's a very new thing for us. We're a team mostly of introverts. So putting our faces out on camera and being like, hey, this is what we're thinking about is a little bit nerve-wracking for us, but we're trying it out. So we hope people will respond to that. And as we mentioned in our video, you know, we all really believe that if you create something with intentionality and with care, which is what we try to do every time we create something, that in some way that's passed on in that object that you give to people. Just like the same way, like when you hand it or you crochet something to give to someone rather than just buying something for somebody as a gift, like that thought and that intentionality that you're putting into that object, you're like putting that in there to hand on to that person. And so we believe that a little bit of that we put into like every skein of yarn or every pattern or whatever it is that we're doing. And we really feel that people do respond to that, whether it's consciously, they're like, oh yeah, I know what Brooklyn Tweed's doing and I get that and that's important to me. Or even subconsciously, they're like, this thing is beautiful and I really like it. And maybe I don't even know why, but I'm really enjoying using this thing. And however people respond to that, we love that. And so, yeah, as we've grown as a company, we are meeting so many wonderful customers and other makers and designers and people that do respond to that and who are like, yeah, this is important to us too. And so we've joined together in this community of people who these things are important for. And that's why we're still here, you know, over 10 years on doing what we do. Yes, so to get back to yarn real quick, we have a brand new yarn called Tones, which is coming out on August 18th. And this has been an adventure for us, developing a new yarn during a pandemic. As our team has gone into lockdown, we just got back to the office last month. Most of us have been working from home for 15 months. So that's been a challenge. Various mills and dye houses have been going into lockdown or stopping production completely to do other things. We had to find a new dye house during the pandemic. That was exciting. And so we're doing a new yarn and we're doing it in a brand new way for us. So we've created heathered yarns before where you dye the wool before you spin it in various colors and blend it together to create our yarns, which is what we've done for Shelter, Loft, and Quarry. It's what we're known for. We've also done skein dyed yarns where you start with white undyed wool, spin it up, and then dye it a solid color. So we've done that with our worsted spun yarns, Arbor and Peary. And in tones, we've combined those two processes, which has been really cool. We start with undyed wool rather, take part of it, dye it black, blend those two together to create two base yarns, a light gray and a dark gray. And then we take those, dye them together and create pairs of colors, which you can see behind me a little bit. So we've got tone pairs of yarns. So we've dyed them in 12 different colors. So you get 24 shades in all. Amazing to play with together for color work, for using solids. Here I've got two examples. So here's our two base colors knit up together in a hat. Here's what they look like dyed. So we've got a whole range of these colors coming out, and they're going to be so fun to play with. So we had to figure out how to do a whole new dye process, set up a whole new supply chain, figure out if we're doing stock dyeing and skein dyeing, how does that work? How's the wool going to move from the scouring facility to the dye house, over to the mill, back to a different dye house, back to our finishing center. So that's been really fun. And we had to source a whole new breed of sheep for us. So all of our yarns are breed specific because we really love to bring out that specific quality of each breed of wool in each yarn that we make. So for tones, we're using Columbia. We've used Targhee Columbia, which is a crossbreed in Shelter, Loft, and Quarry. So we're using Columbia for the first time. It's springy. It's a little bit, I don't want to say crunchy because it's not crunchy, but it's like good bread. It has that like, you know, like when you bite into pizza crust and it's got that good chewiness to it. So it's squishy, it's soft, it's fun to knit with. So we're super excited about that. Yeah, so that's coming up. So look for that coming in August. We've got, that's gonna come out with, a couple people asked about what these sweaters were. It's coming out with a brand new raglan sweater. This is going to be our first raglan sweater, we're calling it. This is part of our beginner-friendly BT by Brooklyn Tweed line. So if you haven't knit a sweater before, this is going to be a great first sweater project. We're doing a knit along starting September 1st. We'll be stepping you through the pattern. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We also have a super cute hat pattern, which I don't have a sample of here. And then we've knit up a lot of our other favorite Brooklyn Tweed patterns in tones to show you. It's completely interchangeable with Shelter in gauge and yardage. So if you have a favorite Shelter pattern, you'll be able to instantly knit that in tones too. It's going to be super fun. So we're very excited about it. And we're just happy that we managed to pull this off while all the other stuff was going on last year, that we're getting it out, we're getting it out on time. It's happening. We can put it out into the world, share it with people. So very excited for that. And I will stop talking and let people ask some questions.
Kel, you're so passionate about this, and I'm so excited. Bringing Brooklyn Tweed on was a real passion of mine, because working at the Beehive, we have Brooklyn Tweed yarn. So you would be embarrassed to see the bins and bins of Brooklyn Tweed yarn I have, as well as I bought a ton of Dapple last year. So I'm very excited also about these tones to come out. I love your company, love everything about it. I'm so excited that you are here to talk about your brand. So with that said, we do have some questions. I know you talked about the sweaters behind you. Could you tell us about your sweater?
Yes, so this is Maracara from which Wool People is this from? Is it from Wool People? I may be making that up. It's one of our designs. Let me find it for you. I will post the link. and this is knit in Peary. I did not knit this particular sweater. My awesome friend Jane, who knits tons of sweaters for me, knit this. So just posted the link in the chat there. No, this is from our Bridge City collection from last year, which feels like it was 1,000 years ago, but yes. So that's from our Bridge City collection, which was a super fun collection for us. This is in our fingering weight Peary. This is just a short sleeve mod without the turtleneck. So super fun. Peary is super soft, squishy merino wool, so soft and nice to wear. Yeah, but that's, and you know, talking about polish and authenticity, yeah, like everybody that works at Brooklyn Tweed, like our team, and particularly through the whole lockdown, through the pandemic, we have a couple of folks that came on either right before or like right as we were going into lockdown. Our graphic designer, Alicia, literally, when we went back to the office in June, that was the first time that a lot of us had worked with her in person. And so, yeah, just everybody that works at Brooklyn Tweed, we're crazy yarn geeks. We're super passionate about what we do, even though we may seem very polished and smooth. Like, no, we're geeking out about yarn. Every time yarn comes into the warehouse, if we get new samples, we're smelling the yarn and squishing the yarn and running around showing each other the yarn and figuring out what we're going to knit. I think everyone in the office is working on tones projects right now. This is Mary's sample. This is Jen's sample. I knit this sample. I think everybody has knit. Allison knit this sample. So I'm working on another tones project right now. I knit that one. Tammy, our e-commerce specialist, just recently learned to knit. So she knit this hat all by herself. We're very proud of her. So yeah, we're all knitting with our yarn. We're all talking about our yarn. We're all thinking about our yarn. It's what we do.
I love it. I know we have some more questions. I just want to make sure we stay on time with everything. Yes. So I'm going to hold the rest of the questions as we move forward and let Jewel have the floor for now. But thank you, Kel. Wow. I think you have taught us all so much. So thank you. We can't wait to see you next year in person and learn everything. It's going to be awesome. I feel like Jewel may have accidentally gotten a bit frozen.
Yeah, sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Your face is frozen, but we can hear you.
I'm on a little bit of delay, struggles of living in a high-rise in the city. So hopefully I will unfreeze a little bit here, but you guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good. You're not frozen anymore.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah, I really have to echo Christy's sentiment. Kel, thank you so much. The wealth of information and the passion that you share for yarn fiber and textile, I think it definitely is a reflection of the entire Brooklyn Tweed team. And one of the things that I really love about, there's so many things that I love about Luigi and Jared, but one of the things that I found so amazing when I first came across Brooklyn Tweed years ago was how Jared started Brooklyn Tweed as a blog in like 2005. And I just thought that that was so incredible because when I saw Brooklyn Tweed, I'm like, this is so polished, so beautiful, so much detail into the pattern work. Even how you guys do your listings for patterns. And my experience of walking into, I think I first came across Brooklyn Tweed in a store. It was either Pearl Soho or one of the local Chicago shops here. But I mean, I've got my query here and I've just been hoarding it for forever. I'm just like, I have to come up with the perfect piece to make with it before I actually unscan it. But it was just so inspiring to me that Jared wasn't afraid to have vision and to create something different than where he had started. And I think that that's a real lesson for us, especially in such a world that we live in now where technology is moving extremely fast. There's a new platform seemingly being created every minute. things are always changing with algorithms and platforms and how you market and create content. But to know that you can always advance, you can always change, you can always grow, and you don't have to be from where you started, and you can keep that passion through and through. I just think it's incredible. And I know, like Chrissy said, so many people have other questions for you, Kel. So we can talk about that on the panel, which we're getting ready to go right into, and our breakout room for a knit and crochet along. But I will give the floor to Jake and Nathan first for our giveaway. And then after that, if we do want to take a quick 1 minute breather, because I know we've had so much stuff coming at us today, so many gems. And I'm just taking it all in. I don't think it's going to hit me until after everything that we've learned from you guys. So yeah, Jake and Nathan, the floor is yours. And then let's take a 60-second breather before we go into our panel discussion.
Nathan, you want to go first on this one? I think you're muted.
Yeah, sorry about that. All right. 114. That is Tracy Loggenecker. Tracy Loggenecker.
Very nice. Tracy, check your email. Nathan will be reaching out to you momentarily. The raffle prizes are actually behind me, and every time I walk by them, I'm like, don't take one of those. don't touch them. The winner of my raffle number 4 is Danielle Retino. I think Retino, I'm gonna guess Retino, at Shy Fibers. You are a winner. So I will be emailing you momentarily. Jewel, we can give you back the floor, but I know we're all gonna take a short breather before heading over into our breakout rooms.
Poor Jewel is frozen again.
I think so, yeah. One thing I just wanted to reiterate, that's all of the OML boxes, but there is one more prize at the end. And if you're just now joining us, or if you don't know yet, the last prize is 2 tickets to our in-person event next year at our Portland event. So there will be one winner, but you can bring, a friend or your partner or whomever. So if you have not entered yet, I would definitely enter. I'm gonna go ahead and put it here in the chat. And yeah. But right now, let's take like a 1 or 2 minute break, get your snacks, kiss and hug your kids, walk your dog real quick or something. And we'll be right back, and we'll, go into the breakout rooms, and we can mingle and network, and all the questions that were not answered, you can ask Toni, Alexandra, Shelli, and Kel.
Our panel. Can you guys still see me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Christy, I'll just backseat for a little bit and let you lead on going into the panel.
Okay, so it will be basically all of us on the team. We also have all of our lovely speakers who are going to be on the team. And to start, what we'll do is just open up the floor. You can raise your hand or put into the chat any questions you might have for us, anything you'd like to discuss. I know that we do have some things that we can talk about on our end as well, if no one has any specific questions or things they would like to discuss. But if you do, I'll give you guys a minute or so to throw in your questions. Also, feel free to raise your hand, and I should be able to hopefully see. Yes, find hand raise under reactions. And yes, there will be something that says raise hand. So we'll just leave it here for a second. Don't be shy. We know that it's pretty easy to be shy and not have a question, but we have one coming in for Alexandra. So we'll start with that.
Yes.
Great. Do you do your own photos? And when do you know, is it when it's best to start using a professional?
Mm-hmm. So it's a combination. If I am not in the photo, then I took the photo, except for my recent spring collection. It's one of those classic scenarios where my boyfriend has become a photographer because I forced him to shoot me so often. Now he's actually pursuing that career as a photographer. And it's funny because I feel like so many of my friends who are also designers, it's usually their husbands who are taking the photos. And some of them have also become like, you know, hobbyist photographers along the way as well. Stephanie from All About Ami, her husband Ryan is an amazing photographer and he does all of her photos. And then CJ, who is Ashley from Sorella's husband, takes all of her photos. And, you know, but I think that there's a lot of amazing photography courses out there. If you don't feel, or if money is an issue and you don't have it to be able to pay a professional to take your pictures, you can take beautiful photos on your iPhone. Teresa from Debreze NYC, she takes all of her pictures for the most part on her iPhone and they are beautiful. So it's really all about knowing how to edit them and post a little bit. There's some Lightroom courses available on YouTube for free too. There's so much education out there. I would highly recommend seeking that out because photography is such a big part of what we do. Because if you spend hundreds of hours making something and then you don't have a beautiful photo to showcase it, it's not gonna go anywhere, you know? And so storytelling to me is really important too. That's kind of goes back to when I design, I love a theme. Because it's all storytelling and you're storytelling with your photography as well. So like the imagery that you are showcasing surrounding a piece gives it a sense of place and where you're going to be wearing the thing. And it sets the mood as well. So the photography is super important. There are also probably lots of local photographers in your area that you could reach out to that might want to do collaborations if they're able to use the content for their own purposes as well. Sometimes you can get discounts if you're going to be promoting their work. So there's lots of different channels, but I think that it's important for all of us to know a little bit about lighting. I always take my photos in natural light. Outside is also the best place, in my opinion, to take photos. Unless you have more of a professional studio set up inside, it can be difficult to get the light right. But there's apps like most of my photos, I am doing little bits of edits on with Lightroom and Photoshop, but I also use like the Photos app on my phone, and VSCO is another one that I use a lot. And if you choose like one filter or one like certain settings that you're going to apply to every single photo, a preset in Lightroom, then your feed is also on Instagram going to look really consistent. And that helps with your branding as well, because you can immediately know if I see like one of Make and Do Crew's photos, I know it's her photo before I even know it's her photo because her style is so specific. So I think it's important to hone in on that as well. But it's going to take time. If I look at my old photos from when I first started, they are so embarrassing, which is why a lot of times I don't even showcase older patterns of mine because the photos are so embarrassing and I want to redo all of them somehow, someday. But it's, again, all of this is such a learning curve, you know, don't just get started, just try it, experiment with some stuff, and eventually it'll get easier and easier.
Thank you, Lexi. We have several questions coming in, so I'm just going to start moving through. We also have a couple of hands up. Holly, I'm going to let you have the floor first with your question, please.
Awesome, thank you. My question's for Shelli. First of all, I just want to say, like, you said that we are, as makers, like, resourceful. I think you said we're resourceful motherfuckers, and I just want to say thank you so much for giving us that power. I think sometimes, like, when I'm just at home, I'm like making something, I'm like, this doesn't matter. Like, what am I even doing? Like, what we're doing is important, and I'm just wanted to say thank you for that. My actual question is, how do you decide what to actually make? Like, you're a designer, you could make anything in the world. You made a puzzle, like, it's freaking genius. How do you decide that, like, this one idea that you have is like part of your brand and like is worth making when you could make anything?
So I base a lot of what I make on what I personally like. I kind of understand that may be hit or miss, but to be able to be true to what I'm offering, I want to be able to use it. I want to be able to engage with it. And like, I don't make a lot of things like, I don't want to point out specific products because other people make them and I don't want to sound like I'm talking negatively about it. But like, if I have a personal thing that I don't like to do, like I don't like to make things out of a lot of plastics because, I'm trying to just reduce plastic consumption. So even though I could make lots of little tchotchkes, I just decide not to. But there's also nothing wrong with that, especially if it works for someone else. So that's kind of what I really put into it. And makers are resourceful. I mean, we know how to do things that are important and necessary. And the idea that we can learn new skills and want to learn new skills is something that a lot of people don't want to do. So I feel really strongly about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, I'm going to go over to a question now for anybody on the panel who would like to answer this. We all start small. What do you think helped catapult you to having a larger audience or reach?
There's no catapult.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like it's damn luck, man. Yeah, hoping to God that the algorithm is on your side.
It's not going to happen overnight. So
Yeah,
you just have to trust and believe what you do. You have to love what you do, and you have to be, your biggest critique. But yeah, just definitely most importantly, love what you do, because if you're out here just trying to create for others and just solely that, they're going to be disappointed one day, and you're not going to be proud of yourself. So be your biggest cheerleader and just follow the process. I saw someone mention in the chat earlier that it's not fun creating something that you don't love. And I definitely understand that. I used to crochet first before I would knit. And one order that I would get over and over when I first learned how to crochet was like a fox hood. And as adorable as that was to make for kids, I got tired of it and I did not love it. And it just was very, very frustrating. And in my mind, I wouldn't actually do this, but in my mind, I would like pretend and imagine and suggest to the customer that, would you like something else? Because I just really just, did not want to do it. But yeah, love what you do. And if you love it first, then like-minded people, I believe that they, share those same ideas and interests, and they will come. It's good to hear that, other people enjoy what it is you do, or, crochet and knit and all these other different facets of, just a creative lifestyle. Just be expressive and just be honest to yourself and make sure you hold on to that identity as well. So, yeah.
I think I would just quickly add to that. Don't get lost in comparison, especially on social media. You are amazing in putting yourself out there, and that's pretty darn huge from the get-go. But don't let social media and algorithms and comparison get you down. It's so not worth it. It's really not worth it. Okay, Julmi, you have your hand raised, so I will let you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me?
yes.
We can.
Okay, I am stoked. I think you are the first person that read my name and pronounced it right. Thanks
Yay!
for that.
That never happened.
Yes, it is. I think it is the first time in my life. Wow. Yes. So I have a question for, probably you can decide, but Lexi or Toni probably. The amount of patterns you put out, I am absolutely mind blown and astonished at how you manage to, like, obviously making the physical pattern, the item, grading that pattern, writing up the pattern, having it tested, all that. How do you manage? Because obviously it has to be a few patterns running at once to be able to do like that amount in a year or in 2 months. How do you even, like, how do you keep up with what's going on everywhere, because obviously there has to be a lot going on everywhere to be able to do that.
Toni, you want to take that over? I feel like we're going to have the same answer on that, which is like, we don't manage it.
Yeah, it's not, I think that's
behind the scenes.
That's like the one thing that I really hope we can take away from this is like, none of this is as planned or as polished or as super well thought out as you might think. Like, we're not going into it blind. You know, I wake up in the day and I have an idea of what I need to accomplish, but it's not like I have these beautifully planned out project management spreadsheets and blah, blah, blah. I have Post-it notes and an iPad notes app. Like, that's how I run my business. So I would say, really the only way I stay organized is like, I've got a little calendar inside my notes app, and I try to write down important things. Sometimes I miss stuff, but you know, like, I don't know. I don't think there's really, I don't know, Alexi, like, I don't think I can explain it, but I also, I also would say, I don't think that the way that I do it is necessarily the healthiest, most productive way to produce patterns either. Yeah. Like, sometimes I look back at 2019 and 2018, like, what's up, girl? Were you okay? Like, that was kind of a lot, you know? So I would say go at a pace that feels good for you. Like, pace is the name of the game for me, at least. So like 50 patterns a year, 60 patterns a year, you can, but like, do you want
can't. You can.
You can't. You know, it's not healthy. And Toni, as you were speaking, when you had your little 15 minutes, I was literally over here like nodding up and down. Everything you said, yes, this year pace for sure, because last year almost killed me. I am really bad at, I'm not a procrastinator. I'm not bad with time management. There's just too many things to do. I said yes to way too many things last year. I got really excited about doing all these things, and I'm very proud of myself, and I'm happy that I did all of that stuff. But you know, if you can, I use this example too when people are like, how much do you charge for finished knitwear? I don't want to charge too much because then no one's going to buy it. And it's like, you think about that, and I like to flip that on its head. It's like, okay, if two people are making the same hat and one person is selling it for $100 and one person is selling it for $10, yes, the person selling it for 10 is probably going to sell a lot more of them, but they're going to have 10 times the amount of work to get to that $100 than the person who's just selling the single hat for $100 would have. So if you're producing 1 million patterns a year, chances are, because it is physically impossible to do all of that as one person with all of the photography, making sure there's no errors, you know, grading things into different sizes, it's so overwhelming that inevitably you're not going to be doing a good job. You're going to be doing a lot of stuff, but you're not going to be doing anything well. So I think it's important to weed out the things that aren't as important to you as some other things maybe, and chase the stuff that really lights you up, because you're going to dedicate more time, and those things are then going to sell better. They're going to be more presented better. You're going to be more excited to share them. So it's about saying no, and like really honing in on what you want to do and making sure that those things are done really well. I think that's more important than doing too many things, like quality over quantity for sure.
100%.
Thank you.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you. Jewel, I see your hand is up. Otherwise, I'm going to move to other questions.
To chime into that, if this answer is anything along what you were asking along pattern designing, because we were talking about this in the knitting breakout room. You know, I started OML in 2016, 2018. We had great, immense growth. I was working full time in the architectural and engineering industry and marketing. And then I was doing North Knit. So I was literally doing marketing stuff like 60 hours a week. And then I got an opportunity where I could start to get my feet wet with designing. Number one, I guess, is in terms of any advice, I would say, if you are feeling overwhelmed as far as from an imposter syndrome type thing, like, that's okay. I would say at first, embrace it. Like, I used to try to avoid so much, like the algorithm with social media isn't stressing me out, or the algorithm doesn't matter, or the imposter syndrome that I feel because this maker is over here killing it and I got like 2,000 followers. Like, that's not bothering me to some degree. Like, sometimes repressing and suppressing those emotions is also unhealthy for you personally and for your business. So I would just say, as far as when you're wanting to get into designing, like all of the feelings, good and bad, that you have from that, or positive and negative, I would say, like, just embrace it. Just feel that. Like, don't sit in your negative emotions, but just feel that. And I would also say, as far as from a designer standpoint, I don't believe, Toni and Alexa, you could correct me, but I don't believe I design on the same standpoint that you guys do. Like, I design through Lion Brand of like more like one-off, non-exclusive, where I think you guys are like more exclusive. They need to be, like you said, like kit stuff, right?
Yeah. I mean, they give me a lot of freedom with what I design, but there's specific parameters around them in terms of like how much a kit should cost. So I have to be cognizant of the kind of yarn I'm using. I don't get to use a lot of their like LB collection yarns because those tend to be more expensive. And so there's parameters in place for sure, but there is still a lot of freedom within that. And sometimes having those parameters helps me narrow down what I'm going to do, so that can be a good thing.
Yeah. So just start with, if you want to pattern design, I guess my whole point is I'm trying to say is just start. Whether you feel inadequate, whether you feel like you can't do it, whether you feel like you're going to fail it, whether you feel like you got too much shit on your plate, like whatever, like just start. Because it got to a point where I kept telling myself I can never be a pattern designer because of A, B, C, and D. Some of those things were positive things, like because I'm running OML. And some of them were like, because I don't know shit about shit when it comes to pattern designing. Like, like Toni said, the things that she's using, I still do my pattern designs through my notes on my phone app. Like,
Me too.
It's kind of a hot mess, but I finally just said, screw it. I'm going to, reach back out to Lion Brand and see what happens. And then it was like, yeah, we want you to do one pattern that's non-exclusive, do what you want, go with it from there. And that's kind of how I've been doing that over the last 2 or 3 years. Like, I don't release these, big, exclusive designs with them. They're non-exclusive, they're one-offs. And so, just realize that there are different ways that you can kind of even work with some of these same brands and do some of these same designers that Alexi and Toni and Shelli are doing. Like, I think, Kel, you could also chime into this as well, like the type of designers that you guys are looking for to work with Brooklyn Tweed. I'm sure that would be different. You guys want a different type of designers.
Actually, one of the things that we are doing is reaching out to more independent designers. And, we used to have an in-house design team. We had, 4 or 5 designers that worked with us consistently. Now we're opening it up. We want to work with more people. We want to see what people are designing that we're not thinking about. So we're opening up our design calls. We're reaching out to folks. And I'll actually even pop a little link in the chat. Because, there's things that we don't know about, like crochet. We have a grand total of 2 crochet patterns in the Brooklyn Tweed library right now because none of us are strong crocheters enough to the point where we're comfortable designing. So we want crochet designers. Somebody reached out to us recently when we had our last design call asking about Tunisian crochet. And we're like, heck yeah, we don't know anything about Tunisian crochet. Bring it on. Show us what you got. Like we will send us your ideas because, we can't think of everything ourselves.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I know we have several questions. I'm just kind of going through them. I'm going to pick one willy-nilly just because I think it's kind of helpful for this discussion. Well, there's quite a few. Posting about social issues on your platforms can impact large versus small business in a very different way. For those of you who have had or continue to post about these issues, how has it impacted your business? Were you concerned about infusing your personal viewpoints with your business? So I'll open this up to anyone.
I can answer this. I feel like, I'm a quite liberal person, and I always kept most of my personal viewpoints and politics and everything totally out of my business, as I think many people have done in the past, because I just didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But what I've realized in the last few years is that I was making people uncomfortable, but I was making people who I actually care about, I was making them uncomfortable. Now I'm making other different people uncomfortable, and I'm glad I'm making those people uncomfortable. So, a lot of the things I think that we're talking about here, they're not political, they're social issues. This stuff is not political, and people make it out to be political. At the end of the day, I want the kind of customers who I would want as friends, and the people that I want to surround myself with, all the energy that I'm putting out there, I'm going to attract the people who have similar perspectives that I do. And that's more important to me. I'd rather weed out the people who I would never want to actually have a conversation with in real life.
I feel like everything you say, I'm like, yes, yeah, absolutely. Weed out the riffraff. Like,
yes.
I put Black Lives Matter at the end of all of my newsletters because it's something that's super important to me. It's been an issue that's always been important to me, and now we've got a tagline, so I throw it in there. And I do occasionally get the, I wish you would have put all lives matter, blah blah blah, and I'm like, unsubscribe's at the bottom, boo. Do what you can, handle your business, And I think you're absolutely right, Alexi. Like, by not speaking up, you are leaving this big question mark of like, where do you stand? And it makes the people who want to support you very uncomfortable because they might not know if they're supporting a brand that honors their values. So I think in my opinion, as long as you stand firm on what you believe, it's only going to benefit your business and surrounding yourself with the right customers.
Yeah. And I feel, once you have a decent platform, there's a certain responsibility I think you have as well to not stay silent on things. I know that some people think there's like bullying of influencers or whatever into making them have a stance on things. But for me personally, I feel like it's important for me to speak up.
I've never had any problem saying what I want to say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sorry, Shelli, you go for it.
You go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say I couldn't agree more. We're just gonna talk over each other. Okay, I'm gonna mute and you say stuff.
Sorry, I think I'm also on a slight lag, so I don't know if I was interrupting anyone either. I've never had a problem saying anything. I actually do have I question everything I do. I have a ton of anxiety. But I do, because I sell stuff, I do question sometimes, encroaching on that line of speaking and using it as a marketing tool. So I try to say something when I feel strongly about it, but I also try not to sell something on top of that. So that's where the struggle comes from. But if I have to tell someone to fuck off, that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think the more as the years go on, I've gotten much more comfortable, not talking back to people, but like putting certain customers in their place. The customer is not always right. I really don't like that phrase. You got to have somewhat of a tough skin once you have a certain following, because listen, I get some very cruel emails and DMs on like a weekly basis. I've had people tell me, how dare I call myself a designer, like that kind of stuff, from just the perspective of like, they don't like what I'm creating. And then so many negative comments about anything that I post that's political. But I think I've weeded out the majority of the bad apples by now. But, you have to remember, at the end of the day, if you are going to speak up on certain things, there are people who are going to tell you how they feel. And it can be very mean. But you have to remember that there's so many other people that completely outweigh that one negative comment, even though I say that and they do still kind of sting sometimes.
Always.
Yeah, I
also wanted to lean.
Oh, sorry, Jewel.
I just want to kind of lean into what you guys are saying as well. I know for me, and full transparency, I'll say it as a Black woman who is a knitter, where I didn't see a lot of other women who looked like me. I honestly felt like Shelli said, I have anxiety. I felt nervous. I felt like I could say the wrong thing as a minority around Black lives. I mean, like, that's a very real, authentic thing to put yourself out there where you're speaking, you know, where there is vulnerability, you know, put political and social justice aside, like when you're creating content and selling a service or a product and you have to be vulnerable with your audience, I mean, it's somewhat going to be natural that there's anxiety and fear around that. But I will say it made me feel empowered to create more content and to connect with my audience, because ironically, around Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, I felt like I hit a little bit of a pothole with North Knits. Like, I don't necessarily want to talk about the things that I was talking about before, which was sort of polarizing because I was talking about things from the perspective of a spiritual standpoint. But I was like, so because I don't really want to talk about it in that way anymore, I don't really know what to say. And then it was like, oh, Black Lives Matter, that was a conversation topic. And it was like, I have something I can say on that. I can talk about my experience. And it helped me, I think, get a little bit more focus and vision about who I want my audience to be and what I want to say to them. And when you're talking about marketing and just putting a product and service out on the internet for other people, I mean, that's the heart of it right there. You got to know who you're talking to and what you want to say. And the things that are polarizing around justice help you have a stronger voice around that, then go for it. You don't always have to look at it as a half glass, half empty sort of thing. Toni, I also have a question and I want to get your input. And how did you decide to lean into the turning off your lights? Because I saw that you did a story on that.
Sure.
Protect your peace. So I'm like,
Let me tell you, I feel like I've been waiting for Instagram to do this since the first day. I've always felt like likes were so, it just breeds this unnecessary competition. It doesn't need to be there. If you like the photo, you're the only one who needs to know that you like the photo. That ain't everybody business. And as a content creator, I always felt pressure. Like, I would look at the photo and be like, oh my God, what's wrong with this one? You know, like, I feel like I've been clipping along and then I'll put up a photo and it won't get as many likes as I think. And then it would make me start second guessing myself. And then I'd be like, well, what is even my threshold of a lot of likes? Because 2 years ago, this would have been great. And now for whatever reason, it's not. And it just takes everything that takes me out of that, like purely creative, I'm doing this for the love, like, those are the kinds of things that I really want to start weeding out of running my business. So going into every post and turning off those likes is like a moment of therapy for me, because it's like one less thing that I need to be worried about when really all I'm trying to do on this platform is connect with people. So I was so excited, so excited.
Recommend it to upcoming designers and shop owners who are trying to grow their following and get recognized, because I feel like brands do look at that, like how many people are liking your stuff, like how much, you know, use it as a measurement tool for engagement as well. What would you recommend to up and coming designers or people who are just trying to grow and connect?
I would say maybe take the first step. You know, maybe not wait for a company to see how many likes you're getting or how many followers you have, and go to somebody like Brooklyn Tweed or Lion Brand and say, hey, here's what I do, and this is what I would like to do with you. Can we make this happen? Like, take some of that power back and don't feel like I definitely feel like my Instagram is like my portfolio for sure, because I've been building it for a really long time. But if I was a brand new maker coming in, I would just take that first step, because if I think, as we've seen today, you know, Kel behind Brooklyn Tweed, she's a person that answers emails and talks to people. These are not giant corporations. These are people behind computer screens looking to connect with you, just like you're looking for them to connect, you know? So just take that first step.
I think that's important for everyone to remember, is that, you know, we have brands, but we are also individuals behind the scenes. And that's, again, why I think it's okay to talk about politics and personal things on your pages, because for me, I don't have a personal Instagram. Two of Wands is my personal Instagram, and I am the sole person behind my brand. So I'm going to share my views. And if you don't like them, you don't have to follow me. But for me, it's important to show that this is a safe space for people. I don't want anyone to feel like my brand is not for them. So I'm going to continue to post about the things that I want to post about. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, you know, and you know, as a big, I mean, we're a bigger company because we're 12 people, you know, we're not one individual. And so when we do post things, we have to think, yeah, this is potentially impacting, you know, the livelihoods of 12 people. But every time we haven't said something, then we're like, that didn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know, as a majority white company, we have a lot of privilege. We could just say, yeah, we're just going to talk about knitting and post pretty pictures, and we're never going to mention anything potentially controversial. But, you know, as a company and as individuals who are concerned with authenticity and who are concerned with feelings, like, you know, we're like, we can't do that. It doesn't feel good to us when we do that. And maybe it's making a safe space for some people that don't want to think about anything unpleasant, but it's making a really unsafe space for a whole lot of other people that we want to be part of our community.
Exactly.
That's the thing that we had to realize as a brand with a lot of followers. We have privilege to be able to uplift other people's voices and be like, hey, this person over here is saying something super authentic, and we want to shout them out and share what they're saying. You know, so that's really a comfort zone we've had to get out of and be like, hey, we are going to say things, we are going to put ourselves out there, and some people may not like it, but it's what feels right to us. And we hope that other people will see that and be like, yeah, that feels right to us too, and will continue to follow us. So yeah, that's been a big lesson for us. And we've been doing a lot of work, especially over the last year. We got our equity and inclusion page up on our website. We've been doing diversity workshops, which is amazing to be able to do as a company, to take the time, hiring diversity consultants to come in. We just did a great workshop with reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' Between the World and Me, and had a consultant come in, and we spent, you know, a whole afternoon talking about it. So we're doing a lot of that as a company. I'm just examining our own biases and privileges and being like, hey, how can we be more authentic? How can we do better? And we kind of feel like that is our responsibility as a bigger company to do. Like, it wouldn't feel good if we didn't do that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, you guys, I see that we have actually run over some time. So any questions that you did have and you still would like answered, feel free just to remember your question, throw it up on our OML. You can send us a message. We can still try and get some of your questions answered, because I know obviously we have so many things people want to talk about, but we don't want to take up your entire day. So with that said, we cannot thank you guys enough for coming to this event, for making this event so much better than what we expected it to be when we were thinking maybe 6 people would show up. So we're so happy that you all came. We are so thankful to all of our speakers, to each and every single one of you. You guys have been amazing. Thank you for all of your insight and input. We will be seeing you all in Portland, minus Lexi, but maybe we can con her into coming anyway. But we will be in Portland, and we can't wait. It's going to be so amazing. We do have, so hang on before you all take off. We definitely have one more giveaway item that we're really excited about. So stay tuned for that. For everyone on the team, you know, you guys are amazing. We've had so much fun. I'm sure we'll chat as soon as this is over as well. I'm going to leave it over to Nathan and Jake so we can give away our very last item.
All right.
Nathan, do you want me to pick the winner?
Yeah, that's too much pressure for me.
Oh,
and you have to tell them what they're getting.
Gosh. So this is the grand prize. It is 2 free tickets to the event next year. The ultimate experience. And the winner of that prize is entry number 171. That's Shelli Arellano, Cozy Mage Crochet. I don't know if they're still in here, but
Oh, she's very excited.
oh, awesome. Okay, well, we will be reaching out to Shelli. Congratulations. You and one other we'll see you next year.
And guys, also, sorry to interrupt, Jewel, just one other thing. Don't forget the Brooklyn Tweed discount code, BTOM15. Please make sure that you guys go and use that until the 31st of this month to get some amazing yarn. And then you have ideas of what you're in for next year. Anything else you guys want to say before we all pop off?
So I know that you were saying there's a lot of other questions that folks had. So I think what we can do is on the Our Maker Life Instagram page, we will put up a questions box, and at least just the four of us will kind of take turns answering some of those throughout the day as we can. I think that's sort of a good way of doing it. If you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to one of the speakers, and if they are able to answer those, then they will. But yeah, we'll put a question box up, so go ask some questions.
Anything else, you guys?
Can I take a split second and please buy my book? I worked really hard on it.
Oh, heck yes. Yay.
All the plugs.
Awesome, you guys.
Thank you guys
so much. Awesome. We see some people already getting your book, Toni. Pre-orders are available now. You guys, we cannot wait to see you at the Portland event. Seats are locked in. Please stay connected with us on our Instagram page and our website. We will keep you guys updated as we move into 2022. Please stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you for constantly supporting us, and please support these wonderful makers and their brands. They work tirelessly. Thank you guys again so much. Shelli, all my love to you. Alexi, Toni, Kels, thank you so much. And thank you to my team as well. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.